OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
It's 7:30 this Thursday morning. You're very welcome along to OTB AM. We're here with you all the way until 9:30. We've got a very busy show. Some of the big stories in world sport that we're dealing with are coming your way between now and the end of the show. Some top quality guests, and also Sean O'Regan's with us. How are you, Sean?
Not so bad, Joe. How are you?
Very well. You went a little bit viral last night. Sean's a colleague of ours, for everybody who's wondering what. He's also a coach of the minor Celbridge footballers.
Yeah.
That's why you're here. The bar for getting on this show has got very low all of a sudden.
Yeah, bit of a disaster last night, Joe. I didn't expect to be on OTBM now. Coming into work this morning at 5 o'clock.
A crisis in Kildare GAA.
There was. We were playing Clane last night in the minor championship, 1-2 apiece at half time in torrential conditions. And we
torrential conditions are negative management.
A bit of both. But we went, got to half time, ran up to the dressing room to go to the toilet, and went to the toilet, washed my hands, went to push the door, completely locked in. And it's not that I locked it, it wasn't the cubicle. The mechanisms in Hawkfield, in the Kildare Centre of Excellence, as you know, Joe, the door just locks behind you.
There's the picture there, yeah.
And I was stuck there for...
no handle on the door to turn it, it's a push door.
It's a push door, so you expect there, if I go up and push that it would open. But it doesn't, and I was locked, and then panic struck.
Of all the stupid things Kildare football has done in recent years, the toilet that locks from the outside is by far the stupidest.
Stand by that too.
Bikini is probably the stupidest. But anyway, I'm...
So panic struck, and I was like, I need to get back out to this match. Like, my brother was playing, I needed to get down and see it.
You're the coach of the team?
Yeah, I'm involved with them now. There's a bigger management team.
Okay, yeah.
But went to push the door, couldn't get out. 15 minutes, started ringing. My mum and dad were down the line. Rang my brother between 7 minutes past 8 and 23 minutes past 8. I rang Kieran 13 times. Went up to the window, and obviously, as you can see, I've wide enough hips, couldn't fit out the window. And it was just pure panic altogether. So then eventually Kieran answered the door, came up. And in fairness, I didn't expect it to take off.
It did, yeah. So you're all over the fan forums.
How did you get out?
Kieran came up and he just looked at me, he's like, what are you doing? Why are you in here? And then he looked at me, and we were telling the story down the line then afterwards. He says, you just want to do it for a few retweets, a few likes.
Hey!
Yeah,
right he was. And so, I'm sorry, but what? I've never heard of it. This is the outside door of the entire Jacks.
As in, like, that picture that was there, there's the showers, there's the toilets, there's the irons, the cubicles, the sinks.
So it's for many people.
Absolutely. And
so this could actually happen to many people at the same time.
Sure, Morgan O'Callaghan commented on the tweet last night saying we had the previous night, 2 minors got stuck in it.
It's amazing how their priorities are all over the place. Appointing Jack O'Connor, or almost appointing Jack O'Connor, and not sorting this out first. They need to get their shit together in Kildare GAA.
Absolutely.
Jack O'Connor won't put up for this.
No, he certainly won't. Certainly won't.
I still don't understand how it works. I'm sorry. I'm obviously a bit dumb.
Like that door in the picture, when I pushed it, I was like, okay, this one's locked. He's like, it'll be all right, Sean, don't worry about it. Turned around, went to go into the other dressing room. The exact same thing. And
did none of your coaching staff think to go up and check on you?
No.
Ref, you can't throw this up. Sean's not here. Come on.
Did he win the game?
No, I lost my point. 1-6-1-5.
Oh no.
But we'll say the conditions played a factor.
I'm sorry, but I'm from a tie, so we've never had any sympathy for anything bad that happens to Celbridge, apart from getting locked in the toilets. I can definitely.
Other than that. I know, but sure, look, we'll move on now. We've a tie in the next round.
Oh yeah, well they'll obviously hammer you, so don't worry about it. It's, okay. Look, is it fixable? Does it require a new door, a new lock? What's going to happen here?
I don't know. When I went in now, it's 8:15 last night. It's not something I expected to be trying to justify the Hawkfield doors.
How many retweets have you got, Sean?
I haven't checked it now, but there's a few. There's a few anyway, but I wouldn't be keeping track now, Joe.
All right, good stuff. Well, thanks for being such a good sport about it. And you can. What's your Twitter handle?
Sean O'Connor95.
There you go. All right. One thing that we want to bring you from this morning, Eoin. You've been delving deep into the archives.
Yeah, we're big kind of music aficionados here. Great taste in music. I think it's fair to say from all of us, we've kind of dug deep into the mire of great sporting moments, and really one of the best sporting moments that's happened is one that didn't happen at all, which was the Kerry 5 in a row in 1982. We found the song really, and we're going to be playing this, I'd imagine, quite a bit over the next week or so.
Every day.
Every single day. Let's have a listen to the full version of the Kerry 5 in a row song.
You've read in the papers of teams from the past, of Galway and Cavanagh and Dublin so fast, but none can compare with the green and the gold, who are first to be champions 5 times in a row. It's started in a downpour in 78 against the Super Dubs who thought that we just didn't rate. Paddy Cullen's hindquarters we'll never forget, 'cause he picked it 5 times from the back of the net. And it's 5 in a row, 5 in a row. It's hard to believe we've got 5 in a row. They came from the north, south, east and the west.
That is the sound of Galleon. They wrote that infamous song now.
But
the
Owen,
5 in a row song.
you promised us the whole thing. We couldn't possibly sit through the whole thing, could we? You did sit through the whole thing this morning.
Yeah, it is a lot of good stuff. Mico gets heralded, obviously. Matt O'Connor gets a
Pat on the back.
a verse glorifying him.
Yeah, like an attaboy. Kind of, you were good, but you weren't that good. You couldn't stop our 5 in a row, could you, Matt? Hey?
It's extraordinary.
Hey, could you, Matt?
Like, it's extraordinary that song was ever written in the first place.
It's not really. It's good preparation. They knew that they were on the pig's back for the rest of their lives. Christmas number 1, maybe. Christmas number 1 in the 80s. Like, that's shifting genuine units of hard-pressed, hard-coded. They could have bought a peninsula in Kerry with proceeds, probably.
They probably could have. And it is a stone-cold banger, I think it's fair to say.
Unless, of course, they were giving it to the holiday fund, like the extra tenner that the poor Kerry chumps are being charged by the county board. It's discretionary, sorry. It's discretionary. All those good Kerry supporters who have to fork out for the travel from Kerry to Dublin. Say you're bringing a kid, 2 kids. Well, I mean, sorry, I know you're not supposed to bring kids to All-Ireland finals. I know Dick Clerkin says...
You've had a lot of pops off, a lot of people there in the space of like 2 clauses in one sentence.
Should they be allowed? Probably not. But if you're bringing 2 kids, it's 400 quid now all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Not that the 90 is a great figure either, but that rounding it up to 100 that the Kerry County Board has done, discretionary extra tenner for what exactly?
I'm not sure if your good Kerry fans thing is completely tongue-in-cheek or not. I'm trying to think how many digs have you had at here? Is it Kerry County Board? Is it Kerry supporters? Is it both?
Kerry supporters are absolutely not part of this particular...
Okay, that's good to know. So I'm immune from this. Yeah, like €100 is a hell of a lot of money to pay for a ticket. €90 also a hell of a lot of money to pay for a ticket. I can kind of see why this is done. This is any county that gets to an All-Ireland football final is going to be met with a hell of a lot of extra costs. One of them being the team holiday. They don't tend to go on a far-flung, I should say, holiday after making an All-Ireland semi-final. They do it after an All-Ireland final, so there is that additional cost. There is also the opportunity to, I think it's enter a raffle for a car or something like that with your €10. It is discretionary. You do have to pay it, you don't have to pay it. Most people are understood, and this is all through the clubs. This is like if you're lucky enough to get pulled out of the raffle to win a ticket via your GEA club, you're kind of obliged to pay the extra €10 to put into the thing. Like, if you're a Kerry supporter, you would be disappointed that the county board aren't doing everything in their power to be as financially up to speed as the top counties in the country, namely Dublin.
So using the All-Ireland final as an opportunity to...
But then similarly, as a Kerry supporter, you'd be disappointed to be charged anything extra after having to pay, like even having to pay 50 quid for a semi-final ticket, and the train prices are still, like you'll be paying up to 80, 90 quid for a return train ticket as an adult from Kerry to Dublin at this point as well, so, or alternatively petrol money, whatever it may be. It's an expensive outlay for sure. It's something I didn't realise, like we have a story up on offtheball.com, something I didn't realise. It's something that people who've been living in Kerry for the last decade or so definitely do realise. I haven't been getting my tickets through a club. I'm a season ticket holder. I get my ticket through the GEA, so I've bypassed all of this for the last few years. I think 2011 might have been the first time they did it. I certainly didn't pay €100 for my ticket in 2011 because I was standing in the middle of the Dubs in the hill.
Oh, the happiest memory of your life, I'm sure. You got a great view of Kevin McMillan's goal.
And Cluxton's point. And all the Dubs crying, bawling their eyes out.
And were they actually crying?
Yeah.
Grown men crying?
Yeah.
And did they rub it in? Did they turn around to you and go, ah?
Yeah.
This?
Yeah, they did. It's a horrific memory. It's an absolutely horrific memory.
So,
it's PTSD. There was definitely part of me that was like, fair play. You know, grown men crying and all that, because we didn't know what this would become. We really did not know what this would become. This will be
grand. We'll be back. Look at our team. It's amazing. Look at all those young players who've burst on the scene in recent years. They'll be grand. We'll be fine.
And I guess, to be fair, you go 3 years down the line, and they'd still gone 1-1 in those 3 years. So it's really 2015 where this exploded onto everything, really. And the more you think about it, and I know you've kind of glorified him quite a bit already, 2015, what happens in 2015? Dublin find Brian Fenton. And like I do wonder if that's, like, as much as I said, you glorify him, everybody does say how amazing he is. I do wonder if that is just the moment that that kind of helped Dublin to go on to this ridiculous level, because it's hard to think that people talk about 2011 as a turning point. As I said, they still went one out. Like 2012 is Donegal, 2013 is Dublin, 2014 is Kerry. Those 3 years, it's like it's one apiece of those three counties. Granted, Dublin, the momentum was clearly with them after that point, but I still think 2015 is where it happened.
And a terrible beauty is born, is that what you're saying?
Exactly, right. Exactly. That was a bit of a tangent there, I'll accept.
Yeah, here's what's coming up on the show today. Sports page is coming your way at 7:40. Cliodhna O'Connor is going to join us at 8 o'clock to preview the big football game this weekend, which is obviously Dublin against Cork in the women's semi-final. Going to talk the European Super League. Graham Hunter around about 20 past 8. Going to power rank the top teams in Europe. The Electric Island minor Jubilee team full forward line. The full forward line is so. There's been a stacked midfield. There's been a stacked half back line. The full back line was pretty good, but the full forward line is off the charts. Amazing. So we'll get to that at 8:40. Tommy Bowe is going to join us in the studio around about 9 o'clock to try and talk everybody in off the ledge that they're currently on, as the build up for the World Cup has seemingly got off the rails in the last 8-9 months, and there's no signs of it getting back on. And then Phil's football around about 9:20. You can tweet us with the hashtag OTBAM. We'll get to the papers after this.
The Off the Ball Open tees off in Abu Dhabi this November 17th to 23rd. Join us with return flights from Dublin, 5 nights in a 4-star hotel, golf on 2 championship courses, gala awards dinner, Peter Lorry golf clinic, and a live Off the Ball roadshow, all for just €1,750. Kevin Kilban, Kieran Donaghy and Connor Sketches will be there too. The Off the Ball Open, Abu Dhabi, this November. Limited number of early bird places remain, so book now at CassidyTravel.ie. Deposit of €250 required. Terms and conditions apply.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the star of the back page is bumper deal for FAI. The bumper is a pun because it turns out that Nissan are replacing Ford as the FAI sponsor at the start of September. It's a deal allegedly worth up to $500,000 a year. And it's going to be announced next week in a timely boost for a body that's been embroiled in crisis for almost 6 months. The other story there is Gerlach Nan's column, which I haven't had the chance to read yet, but I'm really looking forward to. He says that the tribe job could be a poisoned chalice, and he would know. He drank from that poisoned chalice, of course, and it didn't quite work out for Loughnane. And then Aidan O'Mahony says there was no Kerry witch hunt against All-Ireland final ref David Goff. He's also had a pop against Sean Cavanagh. We'll get to that in a minute. And Twitter apparently will act on abuse of Pogba. So Twitter will hold meetings with Manchester United next week after Paul Pogba's racial abuse on the social media platform. And they say they're going to monitor the accounts of 50 black English footballers over the course, or footballers playing in the Premier League over the course of the season, to try and get a handle on the racist abuse that they're suffering. And on the front page of the Daily Star this morning, McGregor exclusive, Connor's just a bully with money. The Star say that they've tracked down the man who was at the centre of the video that went viral after TMZ had it, after he refused to drink some of McGregor's whiskey in the Marble Arch bar in April.
Back page of the Mirror this morning is I Want to Be a Big Boy. This is Jonathan Afolabi. He was unveiled as a Celtic player yesterday. The Irish under-19 captain international, of course, was a free agent after being released from Southampton. So he's been signed up and he's targeting a spot in Celtic's first team after joining on that free transfer. Ronnie says £80 million is too much to spend on any defender. This is Cristiano Ronaldo, reckoning that Manchester United were wrong, basically, to pay 80 million quid for Harry Maguire. Juventus superstar claims he will be worth 300 million quid in the current transfer market, even though he is now 34 years old. Irish star Glenn, the wheel deal, says Hearts. Glenn Whelan could make his debut for Hearts against Celtic on Sunday, basically.
You okay, hon?
Yeah, I just a bit of a moment there.
Getting up early today, was it? Or like normal time, was that?
Actually feeling so refreshed after that lie-in yesterday, to be quite honest with you. Got too much energy almost. Blueprint for the drive to stop 5. That's Aidan O'Mahony as well. This is my theory on what's going to happen in the media over the next couple of weeks, or the next week, 10 days. We're going to see a lot of anti-Yearing So the traditional art of yearing involves deeply believing that your team will win the game, but saying outwardly that they will not win the game. But the antithesis of that is not believing that you are going to not win this game, but saying outwardly that you can win this game.
We've definitely got a chance.
So that is what I think. I think privately, a lot of people who have very good connections with the camp will be fearing it big time next week.
You're saying that the art of Yara is basically reverse psychology. That's all there is to it.
No, reverse psychology is basically the art of yearing.
Okay, here's the Examiner this morning. Fed up, McIlroy questions radical FedEx Cup format. So he says that it shouldn't just be all about the money, it should be about the prestige of winning a title. It's hard for it not to be about the money when it's, 16, 15, 14 million, whatever double-digit number of millions it is for winning this golf tournament. It's about the money. Like, no one cares about the trophy or the title. I mean, the title itself is a fairly new title, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's about the money.
The prestige is there because of the money.
I always thought that one of the best parts about golf was that, like, the money list was the thing that everybody wanted to win. It was naked in its out there, and they're all, like, the most right-wing capitalists you're ever going to meet in your life. Like, the American golfers I'm talking about specifically. And all they cared about was the money. They got into golf because you could make loads and loads of money, and on your days off, people will pay you extra money to play golf with them. It's mad. So, like, I'm not sure about this, Rory.
The FedEx Cup is one big, massive, red, wandering, make America great again hat. That's what the FedEx Cup is. If you could put that into golf tournament form, that's exactly what it is. And some people think that's beautiful.
The golfers, they're all like, yeah, I'd say they're looking at him in the locker room going, what? Did you not get the memo? What are you doing, Rory? If there's ever any decrease in prize money, we're putting it on you, Rory, right? Because there's no way they're showing up this week, for the prestige of winning the FedEx if there wasn't the 700 million on offer or whatever it is.
A tab of the morning to you in the back of the sun. David De Gea, stopper, is still keeping Manchester United waiting. So David De Gea could keep Manchester United sweating until January. The Red Devils keeper has yet to put pen to paper despite agreeing a $350k a week deal. In principle, the 28-year-old's new 6-year contract is in place, but has not yet been rubber stamped. Law-abiding is the headline here by Robert Grieve. Neil Lennon has backed under siege Celtic chief Peter Lawwell and urged fans to lay off him. Joe off to NYC. Meanwhile, Joe Ward visited Knock at the weekend. Now he's off to boxing's Mecca, Madison Square Garden, for his pro debut. And Aidan not afraid to Cavanagh. Aidan O'Mahony has doubled down on his criticism of Sean Cavanagh. He says this guy amazes me with his analysis after that, and he's gone on to say a little bit more about Sean Cavanagh. He was speaking at a media event yesterday. Just to give you the full quote with what he said. I can remember he made a comment about the Kerry crowd being patronising of Tyrone and clapping them onto the bus after the 2012 qualifier in Killarney. I remember that day. All that was in the minds of the Kerry crowd was Mickey Hart. He'd gone through so much grief at that time that there was so much respect for him. Then his analysis then of Tyrone Kerry game and going on about Mickey Hart, considering he's a guy that Mickey Hart probably made, and I've no problem saying that. Same with me and Jack O'Connor and Paddy O'Shea, who brought me in first. You look back at those guys and I'd never cut the legs off them because they made me who I am. I have massive respect for Mickey Hart, and for a player to cut the legs off him so easily, I think it was a bit of a cheap shot.
Aidan O'Mahony talking for Paddy Power yesterday. I disagree with him. I have to say that I think that Sean Cavanagh is very well placed to criticise Mickey Hart if he wants to at this stage of his career, having played underneath him. And the notion that Mickey made him like he was a teenager winning his first All-Ireland. He was obviously a superstar talent from the very get-go, and the last decade of his career he carried the team on his shoulders. And there's obviously a gap in the relationship between Mickey Hart and Sean Cavanagh, and Sean Cavanagh's fairly open about that. I think that's fair enough, no?
I think it's a case-by-case basis for sure. If Sean Cavanagh feels that he shouldn't cut the legs off Mickey Hart because he made me, then fair enough. I think that's a completely acceptable thing to do. But similarly, if he feels to himself, nah, I don't owe this guy anything, really. It was the players who made that team, and they were a great bunch of players. I don't owe this guy a single jot for what I've earned in my career, and I am going to say what I like about him, then I think fair enough as well.
The other thing is that even if he feels he owes him something, his job now as an analyst is to tell the truth.
Yeah, it's true.
Like, he gets paid to write his column in the Star, he gets paid to appear in the Sunday Game, and it's not to go, Mickey's a great lad, he can stay as long as he wants. It's like, do I think Mickey Hart is the best person to bring Tyrone forward? And it's clear at the moment that he doesn't think that. The Herald here, double page spread on Celtic. Celtic call for Cam. I never thought the Neil Lennon full-time return was going to work out for Celtic, and it's not going very well at the minute. But anyway, Poole won't budge over Kent's situation, and Afolabi eyes Hoops impact. So just a bunch of different stories there. Conor McKeown is an interesting piece with Ray Boyne, the statistician. Dataman Ray ticks all boxes in numbers game. The headline is, the sub-headline is, Boyne hasn't a clue about hurling or football, which helped in analysis. So
he's part of the tip backroom team.
Yeah.
You got a shout out on the steps of the Hogan stand on Sunday.
He'd obviously been with the Dubs at various stages in the past as well. Worked with Pat Gilroy. I think he did work with, he worked with Jim Gavin all the way up to 2016. So, it's purely about the stats and numbers. Maybe that's what you want, the cold, hard data, so it's not somebody going, geez, I really like that inside forward. He's just not doing it for us at the moment. He's coming over and going 0 possessions and whatever. That's what you want.
The Irish Daily Mail leads with that Aidan O'Mahony headline as well. A cheap shot, they say. Hart deserves greater loyalty, says O'Mahony. And Premier League denies City's plea for medals. So the Premier League have turned down a request from Manchester City for extra winners' medals. So they were given 40 medals, one for the manager and for the rest of the players who played more than 5 matches during last year's Premier League campaign. They believe the amount already handed over was obviously sufficient, but Guardiola has attacked the Premier League's 5-match rule. Last May, after a side of Cruise at the title, City's manager claimed it was ridiculous that some of the club's young players did not receive a medal. They're champions. They worked from day one to the last thing in the locker room and the training. So give them their medal is what Pep is saying.
Man City could pay for them, maybe, could buy them some, could get replicas made.
Don't think they've got any spare change. Financial fair play laws, does that go into actually purchasing metal?
The Irish Independent, the back page, Dermot Crowe has a story. Hogan and Kilkenny set to appeal final red card. So he's got some details here saying that they've discussed it. It hasn't officially gone forward yet. The Kilkenny County Board is believed to be lining up an appeal against Richie Hogan's red card in last Sunday's All-Ireland hurling final. It says here that it's believed that Kilkenny await the contents of the referee's report to see what the player is cited for, which was interesting. Just that kind of conversation that James Owens and Richie Hogan had where James Owens said to Richie Hogan, according to Richie, that you were late, and then he made the sign for the high tackle as well. So he was kind of giving himself a few options there, both late and high, and then you can stick both in the report, I suppose. Yeah,
but this appeal is surely going to be unsuccessful, isn't it?
You would expect so.
Like, it's I don't know. Seeing the words appeal this morning did kind of take me by surprise a small bit. This is at the end of the season. He will be banned for the first championship match, I think, next summer, which, okay, so there's a practical level to that, but really you'd like to think that, so Brian Cody speaking after the game is like, the referee clearly wasn't sure and he made a decision, you tell me blah 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 about whether or not this is actually the right decision or not. So you'd like to think that Brian Cody's actually gone and watched the game back or watched the challenge back, and most of the people who will be making this appeal have actually gone and watched the replay, then watched the replay again, and then watched the replay again and see what exactly happened. Like, granted, these people are blinded by the fact that they know Richie Hogan and they know he's a good man and that he's not in his character and it's an All-Ireland final day and it's tough luck and all that. But really, that's it. It's tough. Like, the arm was raised, there was a connection with the head. By the letter of the law, there is no way this should be overturned.
Yeah, now, there was a bit of back and forth. Was it Willie Barrett, the referee's chief, was saying that there was no specific directive handed down as the season went on beyond what was handed out at the start of the season, and yet James Owens obviously did referee the game that Bill Cooper took Richie Hogan out in, and it's like, that one wasn't a red card. Maybe James Owens was tapped on the shoulder in the one-on-one afterwards that the referees have and said that should have been a red card, and that's in his mind. I don't know.
There's every chance that that's the case. What I would say is that those moments that people are questioning this week are moments that people probably should have been sent off. The moments where there was connection to the head, like that is the law that referees have been handed down at the start of the year. Maybe there was moments where, come quarterfinals, semi-finals, they're told to be a little bit more lenient because that is where the sort of poetic nature of the GAA comes into it, that you don't want a fella missing an All-Ireland final. But once you get to the All-Ireland final, you're going to be refereed like it's a league game down in Thurles in the middle of February. And that's how it seems to me. So, like, you want greater consistency, and I completely accept the inconsistent argument that Kilkenny fans are making this week. But ultimately, if you're looking at this in isolation, it's a red card.
Yeah, and the other one should have been red cards too. Maybe that wouldn't have happened. Behaviour would have changed. I don't know. Look, split second, lashings of rain, All-Ireland final, blood's up. Who knows what impulse takes over. The back page of the Guardian this morning. England's big chance route will go up a level to exploit Smith's absence. The third test in the Ashes gets underway. Ben Teo has joined Toulon on a short-term deal, so he signed from now until November for Toulon, which rules him out of any possible late call-up to the World Cup. He probably knew he wasn't getting called up to the World Cup anyway. Obviously, he's not in the squad after the row with Mike Brown, so that was that.
Yeah, he didn't...
What a weird international career Ben Teo's had ever since he was pictured in that Ireland jersey.
The curse of the Ireland jersey. Like, he does not only need an injury to have got into that squad, he would need a very specific injury, which is namely Mike Brown to get injured for the entire tournament. So that would probably be the only door that would be open for him, and then he'd also need a midfielder perhaps to go as well. Back page of the Times says Archer can swing it for us, says Root. It's Ash's stories. Twitter U-turn on the View Stars. Jerry's already mentioned that, surrounding Paul Pogba, and just mentioned there Teo's England career to end.
So the Irish Independent, curbing Fenton's influence must be a priority for... Sorry, Times, yeah. Curbing Fenton's influence must be a priority for Kerry. This is the piece where they're kind of charting the success of Fenton, and Kerry have a secret weapon here, though. Jack Barry is his match. He's his kryptonite, right?
Yeah, we mentioned that to Anthony Moyles actually last Monday week after the All-Ireland semi-finals, that this is something that people have been talking about. The problem is Jack Barry isn't in the starting team for Kerry at the moment. So do you like, is every decision you make in relation to the opposition? I think on this specific case it can be, because if there is still a position up for grabs, it is the midfielder beside David Moran. And Jack Barry, I would say, would be in Peter Keane's thoughts initially. I think Adrian's plans open up a bit of a gap between them now, and if it was against any other team in the country, this wouldn't even be a decision. Adrian's plan would be starting alongside David Moran. But it's Brian Fenton, and Jack Barry just seems to have this thing where he's able to mark Brian Fenton so well. The problem I would have with this...
Is it always?
Yes. But
how well is it? Like, is it...
But he's kept him to 1 point over 4 meetings.
But so... Maybe Fenton had a different role in those days.
Not really, no. I can vividly remember the analysis after the 2017 league final, the 2017 regulation game. Both of those games, it was like, this is amazing.
2 league matches.
Yeah, but this is the problem. This is all judged in league.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't seen him go up against Brian Fenton in championship ever, as far as I'm aware. It wasn't around in 2016. 2017 was Barry's first year.
Yeah, look, I mean, I would be very worried if they do this, that Jack Barry gets torched by Brian Fenton, who suddenly you're inspiring to new levels of greatness by going, hang on a second, what? You're my kryptonite. Hang on a second here. I'm like, I should be in the conversation a bit more for Footballer of the Year, given the performances that I've had. I mean, I know I'm already the reigning Footballer of the Year, but like, I'm the best footballer in the country by a mile. I'm the dominant footballer of my generation.
What I would say is
I'm not saying he's saying that, but like, certainly thinking it.
No, but what I would say is that, what else do you do? I mean, like, you could easily turn to Adrian Spillane or David Moran and be like, I'm going to do this anyway. He's going to have that idea of himself regardless, I'd imagine. Like, he's the guy playing with unbelievable confidence at the moment.
Yeah, but I just you're poking the bear a little bit, I think, by sticking Jack Barry on him. We'll see. I wouldn't do it. Would you do it? Are you happy when Jack Barry's in the parade?
Yes.
You are?
Yeah, if I had to pick a side of the fence, yes. I would be.
Okay. New dad Stander living the dreams. This is TJ Stander, who has become a new father recently. And he's talking about how it's always been his dream to play in a World Cup. And Jerry Thornley has... This is an interesting few lines here from Jerry Thornley's piece in Quinta do Lago in Portugal. Ross Byrne's expected to be named for his full test debut against England on Saturday with Jack Carty on the bench. So obviously a complete neophyte pairing of 10s starting and on the bench. Joe Schmidt will announce the Irish team in replacement for the Twickenham warm-up game from the squad's base in the Algarve today. So obviously good sources have already kind of got a heads up on what the the team is going to be. The Irish head coach has been obliged to fast-track the development of both Byrne and Carty in light of the ankle injury, which has placed a doubt over Joey Carbery's place in the World Cup squad. The language around Joey Carbery has changed a good bit in the last 24, 48 hours from he'll be grand, he'll be back in the middle, he'll be ready for the Scotland game, to he's now a significant doubt for a place in the squad. Maybe that language has changed to give both of the vying tens a real sense that something is up for grabs here. Like a big role in Ireland's World Cup is up for grabs if you step forward. So maybe it's a challenge to the two lads over the last 10 days of squad to try and separate one from the other, so it's a clear winner and they've no choice but to select Ross Byrne or Jack Carty, because if he's not going, they're probably going to bring both. But the notion that he's been obliged to fast-track their development because of this recent injury, I don't buy that at all. Like, we knew that Johnny Sexton has frequently had injury issues over the last 4 years. So we knew that there was going to be no Paddy Jackson in this squad. We knew that Ian Madigan wasn't going to be available, which means that you're left with just Joey Carbery as somebody who's played any significant international rugby, and not even that much international rugby. So he's had a long time to build a squad and hasn't built the squad. What the hell have they been doing for the last 4 years? That now we have these two who've got very few caps between them.
Like you would immediately go back to Australia last summer. I know you mentioned this yesterday, but I think you were actually making the point before that tour that do you not just give Sexton the summer off, because it's two-pronged approach to that. First of all, Sexton comes back a bit more refreshed going into a vital season, and second of all, you get somebody pitch time, and whoever that may be in the second test or whatever, it could have been, like, it would have been probably Carthy or would have been Ross Byrne at that moment. They would have lost the series.
Maybe not.
They would have gained something in the long term.
Maybe they wouldn't have lost the series.
Given the very fine margins they might have done, but like it doesn't matter. That's a hypothetical. But I think the positive. Exactly, I was going to say.
After this World Cup, was everybody going to go? Oh, you got knocked out in the group stages because you'd know out half, or you got beaten in the quarterfinal because you'd know out half. But you beat those Australians in that. Remember that? Remember the Australian team who reached the semi-finals here? You guys beat them in Test series down under. Well done. It was great. Congratulations. Is that the thing that we're going to look back on? It isn't.
No, not a chance. I think when you look at the positives and the negatives there, it's far outweighed in terms of actually just saying to yourself, let's plan for the scenario that Johnny Sexton gets injured and misses the entire World Cup. Who do you want to be our substitute out half if Joey Carbery is our starter? But I'm sure that is a question that they've asked. Like, they've surely pondered every single injury scenario.
Then why have these two not got more caps? Why is Ross Byrne making his debut at the weekend?
Who knows? Maybe the Irish management team actually thought to themselves, winning is more important than building squad depth, where you only need one. You need two great players in every position, and they had achieved that at out half. Maybe after they had established Joey Carbery, they saw the drop off in standard and thought to themselves, fingers crossed, there's no way we can create squad depth here in a manner that will allow Ireland to be a squad that can go all the way in the World Cup.
Maybe Sam Monson has a pinned tweet. He works for PFF. He's a regular on our NFL show, and his pinned tweet is John Gruden asking Tom Moore. They're talking about Peyton Manning, and they're at training one day, and Gruden's looking around. Gruden turns around and goes to Tom Moore, why do Peyton Manning's backups not get more reps, opportunities? And Moore goes, fellas, if 18 goes down, we're fucked, and we don't practice fucked. And it's like, maybe if Johnny Sexton and Joey Carbery go down, that's it, we've got no hope.
It seems that way.
That's and so there's no point in giving the lads games, but that doesn't make any sense, because it's your third and fourth choice players who are going to be playing in a semi-final and final just by virtue of the injury profile of teams who win the World Cup, with that exception of the last time when Dan Carter played brilliantly in the final in 2015.
We need to send one of them off fishing like Beaver Donalds a few years ago, bring him back into the squad for a World Cup quarter-final. Finally for me, it's the Racing Post. The last hurrah. Let's give Arc-bound Wondermare Enable a rousing send-off as she heads into battle for a final time on home soil. And back page is England closing in. Smith absence leaves punters united behind hosts in Leeds.
All right, it's 4 minutes past 8 this morning. We're going to turn our attention to Cork against Dublin in Croke Park at the weekend. First time that the All-Ireland football semi-finals would have been in Croker for the women, and we're going to talk Cliodhna O'Connor about that. Before that, we're going to bring you some Dan Levy goodness. Obviously, he's out of the World Cup through injury, and he was in the studio last night with Joe, and here he is talking about the precise nature of the setback. We'll bring you that after these.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
I hear you some wiring. Needs a fixin', ma'am. The name's Buzz, on account of my work.
No chance.
Not all cowboys ride horses. All safe electric registered electrical contractors must give you a certificate of completion that shows their work meets approved standards. Find one nearby on safeelectric.ie.
300 clubs getting vital cash funding. Over 450 schools and juvenile teams supported nationwide. More than 11,000 jerseys, balls and equipment donated. And record-breaking crowds at the last 3 TG Cahir All-Ireland finals. Those are serious numbers. That is serious support. Lidl, proudly supporting ladies Gaelic football.
OTB AM.
Yeah, it was a pretty serious job, in fairness. But
what exactly did you do?
I pretty much popped my kneecap out of the back dislocated my kneecap inwards. So ACL, PCL were gone, and a good bit of damage to the MCL and LCL. So I pretty much had to get most of them repaired up.
Because knees pop, like you had a knee you were popped in a pre-season game before, didn't it, against
Yeah,
Ulster?
yeah. So that was actually the same knee that was pre-existing. So
and you just popped it in that time?
Yeah, it clicked straight back in. That the time in the Aviva didn't.
Did you look down? Did you try and do something yourself, or was it?
Yeah, I did try. So when it actually happened, I knew straight away that it was in serious trouble. And when I looked down at my knee was like, my knee cap was like, it had obviously retracted. So I was trying to kind of pop it back in myself.
Yeah.
So I couldn't really feel it. I was kind of in shock. So I knew that it was out of place. So I just tried to pop it back in myself. It didn't work. So then I started getting those pipes, and then the rest is history.
Things calmed down a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan Levy there talking about the nature of his injury. His pretty graphic content for 6 minutes past 8 in the morning. Cliodhna, good morning. How are you?
Good.
This is a big week. An All-Ireland semi-final in Croker.
Yeah. Big on, I suppose, a few different reasons, really. You've got Dublin, Cork, obviously, but also the first time the semi-finals have been held in Croker, which is, I think, a bit of a litmus test for ladies football to see how people respond to that.
Yeah, because the finals is a big marketing campaign around them, and everybody goes and they want to turn it into an event and an occasion, and that's great. That's a good starting point, but can you get more people to go to more games early in the season is the big challenge, right? It's
a massive challenge, and I suppose as that occasion has grown and grown, people have then said, oh yeah, what about the semi-finals and the quarter-finals? And there's been many excuses of, ladies football need to use better venues and needs to have double headers and all of those things. That's why people don't go. Well, that's sort of all been removed now. It's in the best venue in the country. It is a double header. It should be quality football. So people sort of have to back up all the things that gave out about the last 4 or 5 years and actually go now, I think.
Yeah. I don't know what the estimates are for the crowd at the weekend. There's two sides to that, though, because Croker, obviously, we saw a couple of the hurling games earlier in the year, and there's 30,000 at it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like it's the best venue for 30,000 people. So even if you get 30,000, it could be, which would be an amazing figure.
Yeah.
It might not look as impressive as.
Well, I suppose it's all relevant, really. Like if you reverse 5 years ago and we were getting 30,000 to the finals, we thought we were great, and now all of a sudden that's jumped to 50. So now we're saying, if we got 30,000 in the semi, it mightn't be wonderful, but it would be a massive improvement on
it would be sensational
on the 500 you got in Burr or whatever.
Fair enough. Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about the game itself, because these are obviously the two best teams in the country over the last 15 years. Now it's not quite the same teams on both sides. Obviously, the Dubs are an unstoppable juggernaut, if I'm allowed to say that. This Cork team, though, how good are this Cork team compared with the great Cork team?
I think they're getting better. I think it's probably that they've an unfair task, maybe, or an unfair expectation to be they're always going to be compared to that team, which they were just phenomenal for many reasons. But definitely younger players who are now stepping up a little bit. Their forward line, I think, are really, really potent, and that's where the danger is. If you look back at their defence, though, I think that's maybe where they can be caught a little bit. In the last 3 games, I think they conceded maybe 10 goals. So that great team of old, or the previous Cork team, you'd be lucky to get a goal or 2 off them. So I don't think their defence is as solid as they would like. Having said that, they're getting better every year, every game they play, they're getting better. And those younger players are just, I suppose, they're getting more confident, and that stands to them,
Speaking of confidence, it was clear that winning was a release for this Dublin team to the point where they began to play with freedom. That in previous big games, because they'd been beaten in finals and they'd had big leads and they'd coughed up those big leads, they had the tag of chokers. And that happens to teams. And so there was a psychological barrier they had to get over. They get over that barrier, and since then, in Championship, they've been absolutely dominant. Have they been as dominant this year as they were in the last couple of years?
Probably not. I suppose, I remember talking to some people during the league even, and a lot of new players are being tried out, which is probably something we didn't have the luxury to do in previous years. So are they going to step in and fill Sinead Ahern's spot and be brilliant straight away? No, they're not. But I think there's been a conscious effort to develop more than 15 players. So that's a reason maybe they weren't as wonderful in the early parts of the league. But again, I think as they went on, I suppose the problem is that in Leinster they beat Westmeath very convincingly in the Leinster final. Then they played Waterford and Monaghan, beat them very convincingly, beat Kerry convincingly in the quarter-final. So
we don't know yet.
We don't really know yet. But I do think they are, as the season's gone on, they're getting better and better. And we're seeing more fringe players like the likes of Jennifer Dunn and that. She's turned into a fabulous footballer. We haven't really seen too much of her in previous seasons.
Everybody at the start of the year, when they saw how the draw was going to go, was like, oh, well, that's the final. Do you believe that, really? Like, in your heart of hearts, do you think that this is the winners of this? Or?
Well, I think rationally that's what you would believe. So on the other side you've got Galway and Mayo, and Galway, you never really know what you're going to get. They always show really well at the start of the Championship. They usually beat Mayo in a Connacht final, and then they either get, I know Dublin have knocked them out, and I think Cork have knocked them out in the past couple of years. So they never seem to get it together on the big day, the semi-final. But everyone always says that finals are a little bit funny sometimes, that once you get there, sometimes you can play with a little bit more, I suppose, confidence, or you've nothing to lose then because you're in the final. So rationally you would think whoever wins Galway v Cork will win the Championship, but it's probably a little bit presumptuous to say that.
It does seem that there is kind of like a clear hierarchy, though, with Dublin as number one and Cork as number two. Like, I'm interested in whether or not the gap between Dublin and Cork is bigger than the gap between Cork and the rest. What do you think?
I think right now Dublin and Cork, there's not much in it.
Right.
I really don't think there is. And because they've played each other so much, they know each other so well. Tactically, they know each other well. So it's only small margins, it's minutiae that gives the ascendancy to one or the other any particular year. I do think the gap then to everybody else is pretty big, to be honest, and I think it's a challenge in the game. And we saw Westmeath got relegated from senior football last weekend, I think. So now Dublin are the only senior team in Leinster. So I don't know how they're going to manage that next season. There's only 2 in Connacht. So I actually think in terms of the development of the game, while there's so many good things going on, we have to look at the discrepancies in standards across.
How would you fix that? Would you get rid of the provincial championships and just have them as completely separate? Like, it's the exact same debate that we have all the time about men's football.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's fit for purpose. I think the argument to keep them is tradition, that the provinces like their day out and all that. And the other argument is, well, it gives people who wouldn't have a chance to win an All-Ireland final, gives them a chance of silverware early in the season. But I just don't think it does the game any favours. And, we keep flogging a dead horse. I'm not sure how you can fix it. I know in Camogie, they run an All-Ireland series and they run a provincial championship, which is completely separate. But it kind of doesn't work either. They're trying to keep everybody happy, which I don't think works. You either have to have it if it's fit for purpose and functional, or you don't really, and we have to maybe move on a little bit.
Is that debate happening? Is there...
There's definitely a debate around the discrepancy in standards. Leinster now, there's 12 counties in Leinster and only 1 senior. So there's something not right. I mean, when I started playing, I think there was 5 or 6, and the Leinster Championship was good quality football, and Dublin were certainly not certain to win it, so there is a debate happening, but it's like anything in the GA. The provincial structure is wonderful in some ways, but it's hard to move things sometimes.
It should be a great administrative structure, but it doesn't have to be a playing structure as well. Like, it's a great way to administer things, fair enough, we understand that, but it doesn't have to be the rules that we set the competition by.
I don't think so, and it's previously, when everything started out, it was a great stepping stone, you know, and you see in some competitions it works. You know, you've got the Munster Championship, Leinster Championship and hurling, so that's vibrant, you know.
But even that, they've dickied around with to the point where Galway are suddenly a Leinster team, and that's the only thing that saves that.
Well, they've made it functional, I suppose. Yeah.
They accepted that the 4 provinces didn't work, and
So I don't know what it has to, because while there's so many things going on, so many great things going on in ladies football, there is gaps starting to appear. And while the Dublin Cork thing does drive the standard higher and higher, and that's very interesting, that second tier of teams, I'd be concerned, you know, it needs to be more competitive.
Yeah, totally.
Because they look at the 2 massive urban centres in Cork and Dublin, and that kind of hammers them a little bit more, thinking to themselves that there's no way we can achieve that because of the natural advantages they have.
Yeah, I mean, there is population, there's all that type of thing, and so my argument is always, or my approach would be, do you need to be more proactive with certain areas? And you know, that do you direct funding in other areas to try and develop the game more, to try and give more support to county team? Like, you can't just sit back and wait and fingers crossed and, well, hopefully a good manager will come in, and hopefully that, you know, I think you have to be a lot more proactive in terms of development.
At the elite level?
Yeah, for inter-county level, yeah.
By giving people scholarships to colleges, by
or maybe coach education, or just develop stronger. So there's plenty of counties that would benefit from more coach education, more support for club systems on the ground, just to try and boost the game and bring the standard within the county higher, I think.
Yeah, and there's loads of templates for how you can do that. Like, even a reverse engineer of what Irish Rugby did when they looked at the best female athletes playing Gaelic football and went, yoink, off you come here. What's going to happen in the game?
I think you'll probably see maybe 20-30 minutes of first half where it's sort of standoffish, you know. I think it will be hard tackling. It will be playing on the edge for both sides, I think. So the referee may play a part in it. Like, both teams are renowned for, how would you say it there, enthusiasm in the tackle. So, like, I think it's
delicately put.
Yeah, it's 50-50 there, you know. But I do think that where the Cork's weakness will be their back line, and Dublin have good forwards. They're playing better now. They're moving the ball faster every game. I was watching their game against Kerry. You know, their first half last passes going astray, stuff like that. But as it progressed, they were getting sharper and sharper. And I think they will have the ability to attack Cork's backline. And if they get in there, I think that will probably be the winning and the losing of the game. Having said that, I mean, Cork have Niamh Cotter's back from a hand injury. Darren O'Sullivan's back. Like, Niamh Cotter's sort of Dublin's version of Niamh McIlroy, maybe. You know, she can play anywhere. She plays half forward, she plays midfield, she comes out, she's really, really strong on the ball, really influential. Same with Darren O'Sullivan now back. So that will be a challenge for Dublin as well, to limit their influence on the game, I think.
When you look at this Dublin team over the last 3 years or so, are you seeing an appreciable difference every single year, saying to themselves, right, they've actually improved on this thing, or you can see that this team has been together for a couple of years now and that they're more familiar with one another and are able to figure out certain situations better than they previously have been?
I think so. I think they're getting a better and better understanding of the game and able to manage the game on the pitch themselves. Even when you watch them live, there, as in at the game, you hear a lot more communication on the pitch, which is great. Also, I suppose, go back 3 years ago, some fringe players are now stepping up and they've come in quite seamlessly to the panel. I mentioned Jennifer Dunn already, Aoife Kane, who's played wing back in the quarter-final, Ava Rutledge playing cornerback. I mean, Ava used to be a forward, and now we see her playing cornerback. So they've definitely evolved as the last couple of years have gone, and that comes with, I suppose, having the same manager, same coaches, and give people time to grow into their roles and to develop within a team setup, because every team will have different tactics, etc. So they need time to learn how to play together.
It sounds like you're leaning towards a Dublin Mayo final?
I think so, yeah. I think that's what it would look like. You don't really know, as I said, like in the Connacht final, it was the first game was a draw with Galway and Mayo. Galway beat them second time round, but again, we see that often in the championship. With those two teams, Galway seem to peak a little bit too early. They never seem to be able to just at the real knockout stages to get over the line. They might prove me wrong though.
It seems that this Mayo team as well, they've been involved in some crazy games, like the last game against Armagh. Like there was, it was on before Dublin Mayo. Like I was in the Croke Park Hotel and the place was hopping because like this is like another sort of part in their story which is kind of taking twists and turns. And like you do wonder in an All-Ireland final, if the game's in the melting pot, if there's one team that's able to sort of come up with something crazy, it is this Mayo team. Like if you look at it in the paper, there's no way you should be making a case for them over Cork, let alone Dublin. Yeah. But yes, I guess the neutral would be wanting Mayo to win the other semi-final this weekend.
Yeah, because you can kind of never write them off. Even, the last time I played Mayo was, I don't know, years ago, 8-9 years ago. But they've always got that something. If you turn your head for a second, somebody has a goal somewhere or somebody's doing something spectacular. They have that sort of grittiness. Now, I don't know whether it's over the years they have had plenty of ups and downs. So they do have that sort of a kind of swagger and kind of to hell with what all you say, we're going to go out and give it our best shot anyway. And that sort of toughness about them, which can get you over the line in tight games.
This Dublin team are too good for everybody, though, aren't they? There's no tight games anymore.
They're not too good for everyone. They're definitely not too good for Cork. So it'll be tight. I don't see them scoring 5 or 6 goals. I know I'm talking about the goals, but I think Dublin's backline are tighter than Cork's backline. So if presuming the forwards are giving it their best on both sides, I think Dublin defenders will cope better with the Cork forwards.
All right, Cliodhna O'Connor, thanks for joining us this morning and help us to preview that now. It's 21 minutes past 8 this morning. With Barcelona potentially looking to recruit Neymar once again, Dermot Corrigan can't seem to figure out how it would actually work.
Obviously, Neymar at his best, which is when he was back at Barcelona, he did really good stuff and they were sorry to see him go and he was a great player for them then. But they've just signed Griezmann to play, in a similar enough position. He's a top striker at the top of his game. They spent a lot of money on him. They spent basically all of their transfer budget is gone to bring him in. So, they have a fairly well-balanced squad. But if they're going to spend more money on Neymar, they're going to have to maybe lose a midfielder or lose a defender or something like that. And it just throws everything out of whack. If you have Suarez as well, who, always wants to play, you've got Suarez, Griezmann, Neymar and Messi. And, you play all 4 of those in a team and probably you're going to beat up everybody in a Liga, as Barca have done over recent years. But when you get to the Champions League semi-finals, maybe you go to Anfield up against somebody like Jurgen Klopp, he'll be able to find a way to beat you. Your team won't be balanced enough and they could end up in the same situation again. That's
Dermot Corrigan talking about Neymar now. Owen, in the absence of something to power rank this week, has looked...
He did hurling yesterday.
And surveyed the world of European football and decided... this needs some Owen Sheahan power ranking goodness.
Well, we've been told that Europe needs a Super League, so I'm just getting there before UEFA make all the money off us. This is just basically for me to...
It'll be outside of UEFA.
Get a bit of coin.
It's a breakaway.
Breakaway European Super League. We're going to go through the 20 top teams in Europe, all subjective of course, because it wouldn't be fun otherwise. Not going to be based on wins, not going to be based on losses. It's going to be based on who I think will win a match-up between any two teams, who will win the most games in, say, this imaginary Super League. That's how we're the loose criteria of it.
Quick question, how many of these clubs have you been in the boardroom of?
1.
And they only scraped in the 20th on your list.
That's how in to the football industry I am. We'll get to the candidates that have missed out, because you could go through a list. Doing a list of 30 would be impossible, because there is very fine margins and it's very, very hard to make them. 20 is tough enough as well, and we'll go from 20 to 1 now of the best clubs in Europe right now, as I see. And I have gone with Benfica as number 20, of course, Portuguese champions. We were in the boardroom last year. I've got a feeling that it's going to be a little while before they actually do drop out of the top 20. They've lost Joao Felix, who we'll get to in a little while, and we'll be talking about him with Graham Hunter. In at number 19, I've gone with Lyon. I mean, the French league gets a bit of a hammering sometimes, and this might be a bit of a step ahead. They hammered Angers 6-0 last weekend, I think was the scoreline. They've got...
amazing.
Is this just going to be you battering the French league every so often? So you had Moussa Dembele, and you've got Memphis Depay playing for them at the moment as well.
You don't have to go through this much detail for all of them.
Well, we can do.
We've got a show to get through. It's 24 minutes past 8.
We've got Valencia in ahead of them at number 18. Then at 17, we've got RB Leipzig. At 16, I'm sticking with Ajax, even though they've lost 2 of their best players. I think they've held on to their attack and they've started well this season. At 15, we've got Chelsea. Obviously, a pretty poor start to Frank Lampard's reign, but they could yo-yo up and down around the teens, I'd imagine, this season. At 14, I've gone for Napoli. Of course, it's Carlo Ancelotti's Napoli side. He says that they should be winning something eventually this year. And perhaps controversially, I've gone for Inter Milan ahead of Napoli at this point, despite the fact that Napoli finished 10 points clear of them in Serie A last season. I think Lukaku's a great signing. I think Sanchez could be an okay signing, if I want to put it out there. I think it's a bit more of a kind of a flaw in the system of Lukaku, especially his form at Manchester United. In front of them we've got Arsenal at number 12, set to rise, I'd imagine, and just in front of Arsenal, I've gone for Manchester United. This was a big decision. United or Arsenal, very finely matched at this point, I reckon, but I've gone for United there. Perhaps lower than some people would like to see them at number 10. I've gone for Borussia Dortmund. I'd like to see them in another week or two. They hammered Augsburg last week, beating them 5-1. They had 22 shots, 79% possession. They were absolutely unbelievable, but as the saying goes, it's Augsburg. At number 9, I've gone for Paris Saint-Germain. Still have Kylian Mbappe. They're set to lose Neymar. They obviously didn't win at the weekend. They lost 2-1 to Rennes, coming up against that super kid, wunderkind, Camavinga. Losing 2-1 there, not a good result, and it's not looking good for Paris Saint-Germain at the moment. Ahead of them then, I've gone at number 8 for Tottenham Hotspur. Started the season well. Their results at Manchester City, if you're looking at that in black and white, was a good result. Bad performance though in terms of Manchester City absolutely dominating them. They're coming up in just a moment. At 7, we've gone for Bayern Munich. They obviously only drew last week. Real Madrid, and of course they signed Philippe Coutinho this week. Real Madrid at number 6 looks a lot better than some people thought they would, and there is the trend that Atletico Madrid are better than Real Madrid at the moment, and I didn't want to fall for this trend to be the sort of football hipster, because I do think that Real Madrid have a lot more power in the ranks than a lot of people believe, but I have gone for Atletico Madrid ahead of Real. I have fallen for it. I have fallen for the Joao Felix run last week. I have fallen for the beauty of Kieran Trippier at fullback. What a cross it was. What a goal by Alvaro Morata. Of course, Morata actually missed the penalty that Joao Felix went and won at the weekend. At number 4, I've gone for Juventus. Of course, I've got Cristiano Ronaldo. They've signed really well. They've got De Ligt, they've got Danilo, they've got Adrian Rabiot, they've got Aaron Ramsey. It's been a really good summer for Juventus, and I think they deserve to be in the top 5. They're in at number 4. At number 3, we've gone for European champions Liverpool. The defensive issues might yet be a thorn in their side, and they could yet plummet. Top 2 then.
The injury to the goalkeeper.
Yeah.
That's a defensive issue.
Well,
he's going to come back. He'll be fine.
It's not just the goalkeeper, Jerry. It's
they've
conceded more shots in last weekend's game than in any Premier League game last season. There are bigger issues than the goalkeeper here, and I think that'll become clear soon unless they get their act together. Barcelona, of course, beaten in their opening game of La Liga last week by Athletic Club Bilbao. They're in at number 2. An unbelievable goal from Aduriz to win that. Rafinha did hit the crossbar for Barcelona, and they were missing Lionel Messi, so it's not panic stations or anywhere close to panic stations just yet. And at number 1, it's Manchester City, because it's Manchester City, and like one of the best performances in a draw that I've seen in a top 6 clash by any team in recent memory. They are unquestionably the top team in Europe right now.
All right, that is Eoin Sheahan's power rankings for his Euro Super League with a bit of Euro house behind it. Graham Hunter, good morning to you. How you doing?
Upset.
Good.
I only listened to the top 3 and I didn't see the Aberdeen anywhere. So, 1, what the hell? 2, I listen. I think I listened to the top 15 maybe, and I didn't hear the criteria. And I suppose thirdly, didn't we invent the Champions League for this? If you want me to come in and be Mr. Grumpy and complain about Owen's list, not much to say in that it's nuances, in that you picked up immediately on Liverpool's defence, blah, 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 and Arsenal will be back and whatever. I think they've had, a terrible summer in terms of where their players have been, how ready they can be. I still have pretty much almost total faith that if the draw keeps them apart, it's a Champions League final between Manchester City and Liverpool this season. I think that they've powered ahead. I think, in all honesty, without having heard Owen's criteria, I might well have had them 1 and 2. And I think also go back to the patch where I work. I think that you were right to promote Atleti. Real Madrid have slid and slid. The brilliance of the European performance over recent years that must combine to an Owen coefficient. I suppose that's what you're using, your own personal coefficient in some way or other. Their league performances have been shocking. The defensive performance is shocking. Atleti have finished ahead of them twice in La Liga in the last 2 seasons. So there's little for me to bitch and moan about. But when you get into any weighting like this, and I don't know how you do it, Owen. Seriously, it's like it's so subjective. There are so many factors to pile in, and well, best of luck to you. But we play in red. Only one team has ever won 2 European trophies. Just rethink, baby. That's all I'm saying to you. Rethink.
You talk about Nottingham Forest.
That's not even funny. From a Come
here, though. All joking aside, I wanted the point you made about Liverpool and their players and where they've been. We've obviously talked about Barcelona at the start of every year and gone, they've got Leo Messi in their team. They've got all these other great players. They should definitely win. And I remember almost season after season after season, there was always an issue with just how much flogging the players got in the off season. And this was in the years when there wasn't a tournament or when the players weren't playing all around the world. It was the fact that Barcelona turned them into the Harlem Globetrotters for the pre-season month, and invariably there would be, in your thinking, a conversation with somebody maybe behind the scenes that was saying the fitness of these players is going to come home to roost at some point. And inevitably, with I think the exception of 1 year in the last, so twice since 2010, two times in the last decade, despite the fact they've had Leo Messi for the entire decade, they won the Champions League when they should have won a lot more. Is that almost now, in retrospect, when we look at the end of the decade, down to them not managing their resources properly and not putting in that bed of fitness that will allow them to succeed at the end of the year?
It's a central theme, Jared. It's an absolute central theme, and I think that a lot of clubs will be laughing at them because many clubs undertake the same type of circus tour of the world in the summer now as Football Club Barcelona. Yes, when Barca is so replete with stars of different nationalities, unlike when Tito Villanova turned out in 11, which was homebred in La Masia against Levante, I think in autumn 2011. Pardon me, 2012. What I would say to you is that there has to be wider causes. So, for example, the daily training regime at Football Club Barcelona in terms of absolute intensity, I think has been left behind, not woefully, but if you look across other clubs and their ability to perform across 10 months, peaking at the right time, then the finessing of Barcelona's fitness training, not just the way in which they are undermined and they let gas go out of the tank in the summer. And then a third element that is absolutely essential, whether people believed me over the years or needed Carlos Puyol a year and a half ago to say it, but no other club in world football over the last, say, 10 years has absolutely left everything they've got on a battlefield of the Cup over January and February when matches are intermingled, home and away, in this absolute football killing field from January to February, when Barcelona, having said we won everything, their leitmotif since Pep took over was we want to win the treble every season, and to win the treble you have to win the Cup. So we fight like tigers for the Cup. We lay everything out there. Largely we play a first 11, and by March we collapse, and they haven't managed to learn. So in terms of this summer, Ger, I know I'm talking about that brilliant Aduriz goal, but Athletic, although they're a lesser football team and were better organised and fewer debutants, had far more stamina than our Barcelona side, which was just coming back and still suffering jet lag. They hadn't been in Spain a week from having gone out to Japan because of their sponsors Rakuten, played a couple of games against, culminating in a Vissel Kobe game, where Iniesta and VR, coming back for a couple of days, R&R in Catalonia, and then off to wherever it was, New Jersey, I think, or East Coast of America to play Napoli twice in a move that left them coming back here, rocking and reeling. Piqué said on the pitch after the game, they were physically better than us. They outlasted us. We got put in our place. They painted our faces, which is a very literal translation of Barca, the guest at the party who falls asleep, gets drunk, and somebody puts lipstick and moustaches on. That's what Piqué said. And he said we merited defeat, and the club. Your overall theme is how has the club managed its resources, and by and large, last weekend was a metaphor that stretches across the last 10 years of their money earning in the summer. They're not unique. They don't always do it badly, but they do undermine themselves, but no more so than January and February. If anybody's betting that with a proper attack now, with some decent additions, if you look at De Jong, Junior Firpo, if anybody's betting that Barcelona can go to the summit of European football, then don't lose your money. Don't use your euros until you see how they treat the Cup in January and February.
What was your sense of how Antoine Griezmann performed last week in terms of how he's settling into things at Barcelona? Because I guess if you look at the big money signings in recent years, there hasn't been too many kind of standout hits really, Graham, has there? They are expecting that from Griezmann.
Yeah, I think so. It's a very complex picture in that he looked like a little boy lost. One of the things that you would identify about him on, I think, at La Real and then at Atleti, is his liberty. And there's only one player at Football Club Barcelona that truly gets liberty, and that's Leo Messi. I take it as cast in stone that Leo Messi wanted Neymar, and I think Griezmann, although Messi is not a sulker, I think that he'll be pinging the ball in training at Griezmann saying, can you control that? I think that Griezmann has to earn his spurs in the training ground. Leo Messi trained with Griezmann, I think, for the first time last night because Messi had an extended holiday after Copa America, then he got injured, he didn't go on the tour, blah, blah, blah. Griezmann has got to earn his spurs with the team leader. That's no question. At Athletic, the picture is clouded again by the fact that Suarez went off early. Griezmann's position wide didn't really seem to be working. He isn't a number 9, doesn't like to be considered a number 9. When Suarez went off, Barcelona largely went to a 4-2-3-1 formation with Griezmann up front on his own. We haven't looked at the real Griezmann yet. I think he's finding his feet. I think that he does have work to do to make sure that he integrates. And we've still got a flipping transfer market until September 2nd. It's a joke, the way that the transfer markets around Europe have gone. And that means that Barcelona are definitely still fighting for Neymar. Don't believe this L'Équipe nonsense about they're only pretending to be interested in him just to keep Leo Messi happy. Messi's far smarter than that. They're not the favourites at the moment right now to get him because Paris Saint-Germain want money. But Neymar coming to Barcelona is something that neither you nor I nor Griezmann can rule out. And Griezmann's future at Barcelona would be interesting in that it would be a completely different formation were Neymar to be signed. And Barcelona are still trying for him. That's the point I'm making.
It's not just about keeping Lionel Messi happy, I guess, Graham, because if you look at Philippe Coutinho and the way he managed to not keep the Barcelona fans unhappy, you do wonder if that's going to be a similar challenge for Griezmann. What can he learn from Coutinho, basically?
I view him as a different character. I had high hopes for Coutinho because I felt that his ability to learn would be good. I didn't think he was a made player when he came to the Camp Nou, but I spoke to people who'd known him throughout his professional career, and they assured me this is a guy who pays attention, who's prodigious in terms of trying to learn. As Coutinho shared his first season with Iniesta, he made a big point of saying, I'm watching everything this little master who inspired me does, and I'm trying to learn from it, and he didn't. The one overriding factor about Coutinho was that he would never learn not to give the ball away. He would never learn not to try a trick and go down a dark alley on the pitch when a simple pass, the correct pass, was there for him. He's prodigiously talented in a system whereby people are working around him and he is your filigree player. I think he'll still look absolutely gorgeous. You see that for the national team. But at Football Club Barcelona, he had an absolute singular flaw, which was you couldn't trust him not to put the team in jeopardy with the ball. And that's something that every player who comes needs to learn. Griezmann, while I understand the similarities you're identifying, I still think is probably a better learner, is more determined. I think he's a sharper footballer than Coutinho was in terms of his mental appreciation of the game. Coutinho is one of those guys who has had the luxury of always thinking, I've got a better trick than you. My technique is lovely, and therefore my laboratory learning of the game doesn't need to thrive. And I think Griezmann is a different footballer. But again, the role he's asked to play and what's demanded of him will be completely different based on whether they do or don't get Neymar.
Let's talk a bit about Joao Felix. And the off-season is never that important, apparently, but then Joao Felix does weird things in training that people haven't seen before, and you're like, oh, okay, this could be pretty good. And then the games start, and it's like, actually, this is amazing. Like, the next great world talent is upon us, and we should bow down before him, or is it too early to crown him a new king?
I think there's a lovely message in that it's a blink of an eye since Porto released him for being too skinny, 2015. And what did they get from his €126 million transfer? I think 1.26 million euros. What everybody needs to do, before we all hail him as the next Messiah, is bang home that message again, the message that applied to Pep Guardiola, the footballer, Xavi, Iniesta, David Villa, Leo Messi. Small and slight, don't worry about that. Look at the talent. Joao Felix grew so much at Benfica, youngest scorer in the Lisbon derby. since he came to Atleti, the thing that really commands my attention in that there's a continuous loop. I take your point about him having looked good in pre-season and in training, but there's a continuous loop from his last season in Portugal, where for Benfica, the youngest player ever to score a hat-trick in the Europa League against Eintracht Frankfurt. He's doing now at Atleti without missing a beat what made him sexy at Benfica. And the thing that stands out for me is that there are still, even though Juan Fran has gone, Felipe has gone, Godin has gone, there are still a clutch of hard-bitten, tough soldiers at Atleti. And every single one of them is, give that kid the ball, give that kid the ball. They win the ball, they look for Joao Felix. If he makes a run, they feed it. And you can learn, there's a lexicon, you both know, of footballers' decision-making. And if you watch the games, the eye is drawn to Joao Felix. But if you stop and watch the others, they're looking to feed him. They're looking to create space for him. They're looking to win the ball back for him. And the kid's what about, he looks about 12 and in reality he's about 19. It's stunning that he's handled the move, handled the pressure, and that the people around him respect him so much, so quickly. There'll be bumps. In the first game, when Getafe put, double left backs, double right backs to try and stop possession in, Joao Felix just went, okay, that means there'll be space down the middle, and he went on a run. But he was fouled constantly. He hasn't got quite as slight as a frame as Neymar, but while Neymar was in La Liga, he was fouled pretty constantly. And I think there's going to be a burden on referees I never ask him to overprotect just because he's talented. The teams are going to go looking for this kid and saying, have you got it? They're going to knock him over, push him, jump all over him, kick him. And I want to see referees applying the law rigorously where he's concerned, because while he's developing, whether there are peaks and troughs in this first season, we are looking at an outrageous talent. And for me, working in this patch, I'm extremely excited to be learning about him firsthand.
He's not somebody you can compare with another footballer. He's not a copy of Neymar. He's not a new Messi. He's like, and as all these other superstars, the genuine world-class superstars who we talk about, they've all been their own selves, and he is his own self as well.
Look, he's an interesting guy, and even at his age, he's gone the other way. He swum against the tide and talked about, well, I want to do what Cristiano Ronaldo's done. 5 Ballon d'Or. Yeah, I'd like that to be me. Everybody says what you're saying. Don't compare me to. I'm not the new. And he isn't saying I'm the new Cristiano, but like for a kid at that stage of his development, say, yeah, I want to emulate Cristiano Ronaldo. I like that. It's the same genes that Ronaldo had, Cristiano, at Manchester United when he was telling his fitness trainer, I'm going to be regarded as the best player of all time. I'm going to make people believe I'm the best ever footballer. And you're right. But I think that there's a hint of some of the way he's modelled his decision-making, in that one of his favourite players, one of his top 2 favourite players was Kaká. And I think that when you look at the runs he makes on the ball, skipping past people from deep, and that acceleration that he's got, there are similarities. But he's got power points in lots of different areas, in that he's a good assist giver. He's not a selfish player. His goal total, when we come to talk about him in 10 years' time, might be 15, 20% lower than it could have been, in that he's a prodigious assist giver. And that's because his vision is very good. What's more, I think he shoots really well. And there are movements he makes that's like a number 9. He gets across a centre-half, or he gets across a full-back in the middle of the 6-yard box or the front post really, really well, as if he was an out-and-out 9. And in due course, I think we might see him playing off a main striker. But yeah, he's new, he's fresh, and he's Joao Felix.
It's 8:43, Graham. I'm almost entirely out of time. I just did want to get a quick shoehorn mention of Gareth Bale in here. We were talking about his imminent trip to China or wherever else the hell he was going to end up, and how the row with Zidane might not be patch-upable. And then, lo and behold, turns out he's still a really good footballer.
He's got gamblers now, so does his agent. He's figured he can probably outlast everybody. Injuries might give him a chance. Zidane might go. L'Equipe reports this morning, and I don't know the factual truth of this, that he was offered as part of a big package, bumper package, to Paris Saint-Germain to take Neymar to Real Madrid. 100 million euros, plus James Rodriguez, plus Keylor Navas, plus Gareth Bale. What? What? Is somebody on laughing gravy at Real Madrid? Or at L'Equipe, whichever it may be. I hope he stays. I hope he keeps playing like he did at the weekend when he was very effective indeed. But if not, Where was the last Ryder Cup held? Wasn't it just outside Paris? There's nice golf courses there, Gareth. Good morning. How are you?
Graham, good stuff. Thanks a million for joining us.
Yes.
It's 8:44. It's Graham Hunter giving us his thoughts on Owen's power rankings of the top teams in European football. We're going to talk minor hurling greats with James O'Connor. Next, Tommy Bowe is going to join us to talk rugby after 9, with Ireland's hopes coming under increased scrutiny last night. Stuart Barnes explained why he believes Johnny Sexton remains the most crucial player for the forthcoming World Cup.
He's Joe Smith's emissary on earth, if you like, on a rugby field. What Smith wants to happen mainly goes through Sexton. It's all well and good the forwards picking and driving and getting those meters and the magnificent ball management, but at some stage all those little incrementals have to amount to something. And if Sexton in particular can't start putting Ireland where they want to be, because Ireland aren't a team who are going to win a World Cup from scoring tries 70 metres out. Let's not kid ourselves. They have to keep ball, and they have to use that keep ball to gain territory. Possession equals territory, territory equals pressure, pressure equals points. You got yourself a chance. That's how they beat New Zealand. So if Johnny Sexton's not right, then Ireland are going to be in... Yeah, I think it's fair to say they're going to be in one hell of a hole, because he's such an outstanding player. They've got no one in that same breath at the moment. They have players of potential. No one like Sexton. And here, as I say, he's Smith's man. And whilst Best may have been captain for years, he is the intellectual axis of this team.
Yeah, no, totally. I think we all understand that. As Johnny goes, so will Ireland go in this World Cup. Well, I guess it's kind of that 9 and 10 partnership. If they were to be good again, all of a sudden, then we'd all feel pretty confident. We'll talk more with Tommy Bowe after 9 o'clock about that. But now, to the Electric Ireland Player of the Week. It's time for us to tell you who last week's Player of the Week was after the All-Ireland Hurling final. And it was a fairly straightforward one here. Sean McDonough was absolutely sensational in the All-Ireland final. Was it 2-8 that he scored in the All-Ireland final? And so, play centre forward for Moylach Montbellew, and he was our Electric Ireland Player of the Week from the hurling final. Let's move on to the Jubilee Minor 15. Our Electric Ireland Minor Jubilee 15 are the best hurlers in the last 25 years. Time for us to reveal the half-forward line, which was voted for by you, the hurling public. Cian Lynch at 12, Richie Hogan at 11, and Shane Long at 10.
Never heard of him.
I didn't really want to have a very good senior career, did he, Shane Long?
That's quite the half-forward line.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, every line you're looking at is saying, oh my God, it's unbelievable.
It's got pace, it's got guile. Cian Lynch has both of those. It's got like...
There was a lot of hurls dropped last Sunday afternoon in Croke Park. That is a growing trend, probably because of the rain. In a wet day, hurley's getting dropped. Notice how I said hurl and hurley there, because I want to keep people happy. Shane Long is your man.
Yeah.
He would be fantastic in the Fenley role with a few tip lads hanging off him.
Yeah, I wonder what position he would have ended up. Or do you put him in the half-forward line and his pace just kills you?
Yeah, or...
And he can get on ball around midfield.
He's definitely in one of the either a half forward or a half back for sure.
Could Shane Long come back now, give up football now, today, and make the senior tip team next year?
Yes.
Like
not the senior. No, he'd make the.
No, it has to be a senior team.
He'd be a very good club player.
No. Could he play inter-county now?
I think after missing that amount of hurling.
Yeah, but he's a full-time professional athlete. Like we know how fast he is.
He's got the conditioning and all that. Absolutely. But, like, I mean, how many AFL players come back other than Ty Connelly and actually kind of get back into the rhythm of it quickly? And then you change that into hurling, which is a far more skill-based sport. And, like, his touch won't be as good. Give him a season playing at the top level in Tipperary club hurling. And then
2 years, you're saying 18 months.
Give him 18 months, maybe. Just get the skill back, because he obviously has the athleticism.
Give up the out football there, and let's have a reality TV show where Shane Long comes back and plays. I mean, obviously he still is very highly regarded by the Irish sporting public. Named at right half forward, a dual star at minor apparently. I didn't realise it was a dual star.
Neither did I. It's funny how obviously it's just far more success with Tipperary, obviously, on a hurling sense.
Let's move on to the full forward line, because this is, I mean, what I was saying earlier on, the full back line was absolutely sensational. The half back line was great. Midfield was really tough. That half forward line is dynamic. So the midfielders are Noel McGrath and Ger Farher. The half back line is Joseph Cooney, Austin Gleeson and Sean O'Halpine. And there were people saying Austin Gleeson shouldn't have been in that team. Paddy Marr, Ronan Marr and Tommy Walsh was the full back line. Don't look, he's like, this is going to be a great team. We still have the full forward line to go. And get this, right? Let's put up some of the nominees for this. So our contenders are Joe Canning, Owen Kelly, James Cha Fitzpatrick, who scored 2-3 in the O2 final, Kieran Fraggy Murphy, who scored 3-6 in an All-Ireland semi-final before going on to win in the final in 2001. Joe Dean, who won in 95. Damien Hayes, who won in 99. Tanta O'Halpine, who won in 2001. Pa Burke, who won in 2006. Richie Cummins from Galway, 2009. Pace and an eye for goal that made him lethal. Shane Maloney from Galway, All-Ireland winner in 2009 and 2011. Starman in the final in 2011. Got into the starting team at the age of 16 when it was still under 18. Richie Hogan, who's already in the team. Can we put him in two places? We probably won't. Bubbles O'Dwyer, who was one of the stars of 2009, racking up huge scores in each game. Adrian Mullen, a Leinster winner in 2017, who, if he hadn't been sick, would probably have been getting a lot of highlights this week. Jack Canning, who scored 2-2 in the 2017 final. I think we have...
where's Richie Hogan in the team?
Left half forward.
No, Richie Power. Or is there...
maybe this is Richie Power supposed to be here, is it? Yeah, we'll check that, because obviously Richie Power is a sensational underage player. So I think we've got Jamesy O'Connor with us on the line. Jamesy, good morning to you.
Jared, good morning. How are you doing?
This is a very difficult thing to pick between that level of talent over the last 25 years, but we're recommending things to the public. We rang around and we're asking people about Joe Canning as a minor, and the phrase that kept coming back was he looked like a senior amongst the minors. He was so good. He was head and shoulders physically and metaphorically above everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, listen, he was the great white hope long before he became, I suppose, the go-to man at senior level. I mean, my father is a Galway man, and the uncle lives down the road, and it was Joe this and Joe that. With this guy was probably 16, 17 years of age. So, yeah, I mean, listen, like he played minor for 3 years. I think he was the first guy since it was a John Doyle to the chance of winning 3 successive All-Ireland minor titles. And like Joe, it's hard to make it's hard to make the county minor team. Like when you're in your final year, you're exceptional if you do it kind of as an under 17 when the age is under 18. But like when you're there as under 16, physically obviously you've got the attributes, but also you've got to be extremely good. And this guy was extraordinarily good. And to look as comfortable as he did at minor level, as an under 16 player, like was phenomenal. I think he put two line balls over the Barney All-Ireland final replay or something. This guy just had it all.
Owen Kelly, I'm pretty sure Owen went back to St. Kieran's for a year as well, so obviously everybody in the locality knew, and I'm not sure that I'm sure Kieran's were making the phone call to him, but he was actually in the minor team as a goalkeeper as a 15-year-old as well, so I don't think they were actually so obviously he wasn't in the chance of doing the 3 in a row as an individual, but certainly they all knew about his talent that young. They just wanted to get him in the setup and put him in goals.
Yeah, and again, listen, he's hands to die for. He went over the board to Kilkenny because Flannan's and Kieran's were kind of very strong around that time and kind of clashed in a couple of All-Ireland finals, and this guy won All-Ireland colleges, I think, against us. And again, listen, Jerry, he was just one of these guys that you knew from a long way out that this guy is going to be a star at senior level. And again, like Joe, 3 years at minor, initially brought in, I think, as a goalkeeper. Then they realised, look, this guy's too good, and I think he ended up maybe in the full forward line. Beat Clare in the Munster final, I think, in '97, and Clare came back to the back door and actually won the All-Ireland. But listen, he was class, and as far as I know, I think he played under 21 or came on the under 21 team as a minor, which again indicates how good he was and how physically strong he was. Again, to be able to play under 21 as a minor, you've got to be exceptionally good, and like Canning, he just ticks that box.
I was watching a bit of All Ireland Goal last night. It was the Wexford Offaly All Ireland, the Wexford Offaly Leinster final from '96, and it's fair to say that forwards in this era were not given any protection by referees. I'll leave it there, but everybody can imagine the wild swiping that was being done by everybody in the forwards. So for that generation of forwards, for your generation of forwards to come through and survive, you all needed physical strength and you needed to be able to look after yourselves.
You did, yeah, and like one of the biggest regrets of my career is 2001, because we had a poor year the previous year. We had an early summer. Tip dumped us out in the first round. We put in a massive effort over that winter, and Tip beat us in the league final. But there was, we met them the first round of the championship in 2001, a massive game down in Porky Keys, and Kelly was playing corner forward, and early in that game, he caught a ball, and Baker, who was in his prime at the time, hit him this ferocious shoulder, and he just, again, I think he knocked him, he bounced up off the ground and he slipped the pass to somebody, and everyone knew then that this guy just was going to survive. And even back then, we knew about him, we knew the potential that he had, and as you said, Jerry, that was a different era, and there was a little bit more let go than there is today. But yeah, for guys to survive in that era, and he, as I said, to come into that environment, with the two Lohans in the full back line, he was probably marking, I think, Frank that day, and he was exceptional, and probably the difference in getting them over the line in 2001. Yeah,
it's the Clare version of Hell's Kitchen. Speaking of corner forwards, Chow Fitzpatrick was a corner forward in minor level. In 2002, he scored 2-3 in the final there, and it's funny that he started his life as a corner forward. You can see under a different management team that Chow Fitzpatrick would have been one of the kind of longest tenured third midfielders, or kind of a sweeper in between the half back line, a quarterback really between the half back line and the midfield. Like his career as a high scoring corner forward suggested as well that he had the perfect eye for the modern game. It's just a pity the way his career ended up working out.
Yeah, listen, extraordinarily skillful, and as you said, pedigree, colleges, Ballyhale, obviously, and into St. Kieran's or whatever, and again, Cha has won it all. But yeah, I mean, Jerry, look, he just had that ability to hurl anywhere in the field, and I think in 2010, Brendan Maher, I think, marked him, and Brendan Maher was just just so full of energy, and I think maybe Cody looked at Chad that day maybe in a different light, and maybe in Cody's eyes, in terms of the way the game was going, in terms of mobility and athleticism, and Chad was just a different type of player, as you said, like just the hands, the skill level, just the vision to pick out that pass. A lot of us was the attributes that Noah McGrath brought to the middle of the field this year, and certainly his intercounty career. There was probably a lot more in Cha in lots of people's eyes that maybe didn't end up happening. But he was a cerebral talent, and listen, a class player in an era where there was a lot of guys, Richie Power and those kind of guys around.
Yeah, to talk about Richie Power briefly, I was saying yesterday in the show, I saw him at the All Ireland final, and he looked like he could still do a job for that Kilkenny team, and geez, they were crying out for somebody like him in the team. Again, slightly underrated because he played with so many great players, but a two-time All Ireland winner as a minor in his day. I think maybe two-time Leinster winner. I'm not sure they won back-to-back All Irelands, but certainly a superstar and very highly touted minor as well.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I mean, no question about it. But I mean, Gerard, you look back, and particular counties. Galway, for example, have always produced these minors, and they haven't all gone on to do it at senior level. But Richie Cummins from Gort, just down the road from us. We would have. I remember seeing Richie we played him in an under 16 challenge, and you're trying to figure out who is this guy, because he was just class, and he was a brilliant player. Carol Wade, I think, was corner forward, guy from Sarsfields, and I remember again played corner forward, I think, beside Canning, whatever, and again. You're wondering, would this guy crop up at senior level? Evan Nyland in 15 was excellent. Jack Canning obviously in 17. Will he make the step up? Don Loche last year, I think, was elected Cardiff minor player of the year. Shane Maloney in I think played for 3 years, maybe 9, 10, 11. Again, looked like a guy that was destined for great things at senior level. So I mean, Ger, like this is some list of players, and as I said, not all of them went on to become household names. I mean, one guy we didn't talk about is Joe Dean. You know, again, who maybe like Kelly, you know, just had that underage pedigree, you know, even at colleges level. I mean, he won a Harty Cup medal with Middleton in 95, was part of an unbelievable Middleton team. I think Don Logue was on it. I think Tim O'Sullivan might have been on it, Mickey O'Connor. And Joe, again, was one of those guys that just made the transition. I think Jimmy Barry brought him straight, you know, from minor and into the senior setup. And, I mean, he was 5'7", Joe, or Ger, but, like, what a player. And again, a guy who obviously merits consideration given the senior career that he went on to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And then one last one, Fraggy Murphy, 3-6 in an All-Ireland semi-final he scored for Cork in 2001 against Kilkenny. That's not bad.
It's not bad, and it would have been interesting to see what the Kilkenny full backline was on that particular day. But I mean, I think Setanta could have been on the scene around that time as well. Yeah, listen, like Fraggy obviously was you know, in that Cork setup. I mean, with a lot of those guys that you know went on to, you know what I mean, to you know, that Cork team of the last decade. But I mean, 3-6 in that Ireland semi-final. I mean, you know, it's exceptional. And again, he's a guy that another guy that deserves merit given what he did. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. James, good to have you with us this morning. Thanks a million, man.
Cheers, lads. Take care.
James O'Connor giving us his thoughts on the Electric Ireland Jubilee team, which is the best 15 hurlers over the last 25 years for hurling. We'll do this for football next year. A reminder, next Thursday we're going to be previewing Galway against Cork in the Electric Ireland All-Ireland football final, and we'll give you details on the championship haircut and where you can get it done on All-Ireland final day on OTB AM next Thursday morning. Now let's go back to rugby, and I'm delighted to say Tommy Bowe is with us this morning to help us preview the World Cup basically at this point. Tommy, all of these games, there's a bit of shadow boxing going on, when in reality everything that happens now we're viewing through the prism of what's going to happen when we actually get to Japan. What are the players thinking though in a build up to a game like this? Is it exclusively about not getting injured? Is it about trying to win a place? What are they doing?
I think morning, first of all. I think it's a huge game for them given the way the Six Nations finished. It's the last game that a lot of these players have played in a green jersey. Obviously, in the back of your mind, they've got through pre-season. They want to get on the plane to Japan. Injury is always niggling in the back of their mind. But there's a huge amount of players who are going to be playing who need to have a good game. It's a confidence issue. There's obviously a huge game to kick off the World Cup against Japan. And I think for the Irish guys, they'll have been practicing a new game plan right through pre-season. But it's now a case of putting it into practice and seeing if it works.
Yeah, so there is stuff going on in training that we're obviously not privy to, which will be
absolutely, yeah,
installing new ideas and new game plans to try and move on from last year.
Well, I think, listen, Joe Schmidt is a genius when it comes to rugby. To think that he hasn't some plan in place, some way of trying to manoeuvre teams around the park and to try and have something up his sleeve going into a World Cup. You know, this has been a 4-year cycle for Joe. He's beaten the All Blacks. He's won a Test series in Australia. He's won a Grand Slam, Six Nations. But this has been his main focus through that whole 4-year period. So I would believe, even with the disappointment of the Six Nations, that he has a plan in place, and it's been something that's probably been going. I spoke to him before the Autumn Internationals, and he said whatever happens in the Six Nations happens. The World Cup was their main focus.
The reason why we have you on, Tommy, is to go through our depth chart for the back three for Ireland. You were obviously on with us before the Six Nations, so naturally we're updating it before the World Cup. We may as well start with your wings, and I think we've got a graphic here to show your decisions. We've gone with Stockdale as your number one choice, naturally, on the wing with a score of 10. Keith Earls second up with 9. They'll be the two starting wingers, everybody being fit, all going well. I don't think too many people would disagree with you there. And then Andrew Conway at 7 and Jordan Larmour at 7, Tommy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really see many more pushing their way in outside of those four. I think the likes of Dave Carney is obviously in camp. He's trying to push into that position, but I think that those four are the standout guys, and particularly Andrew Conway, the way he played against Italy. He was one of the few players who really put his hand up and showed what aerial skills he has. I think to go in to start the first game against Scotland, you would have to believe that it's going to be Jacob Stockdale and Earls on the two wings. And then it's whether somebody else gets an opportunity, who's going to be 23rd man, whether it could be a Larmour, whether it could be a Conway, or maybe somebody else, Will Addison, for instance. But on the wing, I think those four are pretty much nailed on. It's whether Andrew Conway really makes it on the plane as well. He'll probably get another opportunity and hopefully he takes it.
We may as well actually go straight to the full-backs here, just to kind of give a full picture of what you're thinking in the back three, because it's important when it comes to the squad and when it comes to the 23. So you've gone with Carney leading the way with 9 out of 10, Jacob Stockdale, Joey Carberry and Jordan Larmour all there on 7, and then Will Addison just lagging behind on a 6. Does Andrew Conway come into your thinking at all for this position?
No, I don't think so. I think Andrew Conway probably doesn't have enough international experience and confidence at this level to really put in at fullback, and hasn't played enough at fullback for Munster last season for me to think that of course he can play fullback. He's very good in the air like he showed against Italy, but I think his preferred position for Ireland will be on the wing. The way I'm looking at it is I believe that having somebody, I think Rob Kearney will definitely start in the Scottish match, provided everybody's fit with Jacob and Keith Earls on the two wings. But I would like to see somebody like a Joey Carberry potentially going into fullback. I think that everybody's talking whether he's going to be fit or not. If he is fit, and I think that we might have seen this even in the warm-up games, that everybody's talking about how Ireland's attack is a little bit stale. If you look at all the other teams around the world, because they're playing in front of a blanket defence, every other team, you look at England, who've got Ford Farrell, with then Piers Francis playing at 12. You've got Elliot Daly playing at 15. You have potentially Anthony Watson playing at 15. A lot of teams are playing with two attackers so they can go either side of the scrum. New Zealand have moved Barrett to fullback so that they can have Mo'unga at 10. Same as Australia, Lele Fano with Curtly Beale gone to 15. So I think Rob Kearney, as much as he's a fantastic player, great under a high ball, I think potentially Ireland's attack needs to evolve a little bit. Having somebody at 15 who can get into first receiver, attack both sides of the pitch, and then that opens up the opportunity for those kicks through. You know, when teams have a blanket defence of 13 players in front of them, they have a full-back and maybe a scrum half in the backfield. If you have two people either side of the breakdown, it makes it very hard for those full-backs to guess which way to go.
Do you think that's what was behind Robbie Henshaw being picked full-back for the England game, that they were trying to institute some change? That didn't work out, and they've overreacted quite conservatively by saying, we have a full-back who's a stopper and that's it?
Yeah, listen, Jordan Larmour's played 4 times last season for Ireland at 15, so they do see him as a potential candidate for that. But personally, I think that Jordan, as talented as he is, he's still a little bit young and maybe immature to be stepping up as first receiver and taking on defenders and really taking on a playmaker role at that 10 position or 15 position. I wouldn't mind seeing Jacob Stockdale playing there. I think he's had another fantastic season. He's shown he's very good under a high ball. He's played 15 last season for Ulster. Potentially to see Jacob at 15 with Jordan Larmour and Keith Earls on the two wings would be pretty exciting to see as well. Jacob spoke at the end of the season how his preferred position is now 15 if he had an opportunity, so that might be something up his sleeve as well. I think that Joe is definitely looking at that. He can't fully rely on Rob Kearney to play every game right through this World Cup, and if we do need a little bit of X factor, having somebody like Jacob at 15 or even a Joey Carberry at 15, it means we can have maybe a Bundy Aki on the bench along with a Jordan Larmour. So I think it's a case of potentially mixing that up a little bit.
How do we get to see this? If this is a possibility, are they doing this in training at the moment in Portugal and keeping it quiet and not showing any tape on it against England or against Wales in the warm-ups? Do you unfurl this at a World Cup and hope it works, or how do you make everybody confident?
Well, that's the thing. I speaking to the guys ahead of the Six Nations, Robbie Henshaw was getting a lot of time in training at 15, but obviously that shows that you can do all the work in training you like. It's when it comes to a match and you're under the sort of pressure that international rugby brings that can really test whether you're up to it or not. I would imagine the guys have tried things out. I'm not too sure whether Jacob has had a run at 15, whether Joey Carberry maybe is an option, but I think that Joe will definitely be trying somebody out there. I think with Will Addison, I have him down as an outside bet. He's somebody who I really rate as a player. Fantastic, how he played with Ulster last season. He can play 13, he can play 15, he can play wing. I know Joe really likes him, but unfortunately, he struggled so much at the end of the season with his back injury. I think he's picked up another injury through pre-season, so you can't afford to take somebody on a plane potentially who you have to wrap in cotton wool. So for that reason, I can see Andrew Conway travelling. And I believe that Rob Kearney will probably play 15 this weekend. He will probably play 15 in that Scottish match. But in the Japanese game, I wouldn't be surprised to see them mix it up a little bit with the quarterfinal in mind. Because to take on a South Africa or a New Zealand, we have to do things a little bit different. We have to be able to take them on. We have to show our attack. And just go in the same direction, trying to batter teams down, it's definitely not going to work.
You talked about there about wrapping people up in cotton wool. The news on Joey Carberry seems to be that he'll be fine perhaps for the Scotland game if he makes the plane. But the fact that he's like a doubt for the plane has started to be written by the journalists who are out in Quinta do Lago. So there's obviously like a little hint that maybe his injury is a bit worse than we had originally feared. We don't know now how well he would do at full back because he's obviously not getting the reps in training at the moment. Yeah. And we also don't really know who our backup to Johnny Sexton will be if Carberry's out. It's not a great situation we find ourselves in with respect to out half at the moment.
It's not, but I think that we have two very capable out halves in behind Joey. I think Ross Byrne in particular is a fantastic player, very much in the mould of Johnny Sexton. He got asked to play 10 for Leinster against Munster in the semi-final of the Pro 14 this year, which I thought was, a lot of people were talking that it was Johnny Sexton was dropped, but according to Leo, it was to give him a chance and to give him an opportunity. He won the game for Leinster that day and played very, very well. You saw him in the Ulster quarter-final last year when he had to kick that penalty at the end of the game to put Leinster in front. So I think in pressure situations, he is well able to step up. He's well able to lead a team around the pitch. And I think with Jack Carty, he showed in the Six Nations when he had chances to come on, he can spice things up a little bit. He's a little bit more of a maverick. Whether that is really what we need, if we have Joey Carberry, who in a sense is somebody who can spark something out of nothing, as a third choice, I probably would think that Ross Byrne might be somebody who would be a little bit more attuned to the game plan Ireland will want to play. But if Joey doesn't make it, I think we have two good out halves who can step in.
It's really interesting hearing you talk about how Schmidt says before the Six Nations that whatever happens at the Six Nations, it's really about the World Cup. To that end, does that make you feel more confident that they will take Carberry, even if he's not fit for the start of the tournament? If they're thinking about this tournament for so long, they'll give Carberry up until the week before the quarter-final to be fit for that quarter-final, as opposed to thinking, well, if you can't play for me for the first game, you're no good to me, because the tournament is going to be a long tournament.
Yeah, it is a long tournament, but whenever there will be injuries in the 3 games leading up to it. That's my big worry, is that who else is going to pick up injuries in these next games, because they're going to be brutal. Ireland this weekend will feel their backs are up against the wall. They need a big performance, so there's going to be nothing like a friendly in this game. So we will see probably more injuries before then, but Joe will have to be ruthless. It's a 31-man squad. After that Scottish match, there's going to be guys who won't be able to train on the Monday and Tuesday. They have to back it up 6 days later. You can't be carrying people. So there will be some tough decisions made, and if somebody isn't fit, who isn't going to be able to pull their weight in training, they might have to be left behind. And that's why Joe has built such strength and depth in pretty much all positions right down through the squad. It's just at 15, there's nobody in my mind who has really stepped up behind Rob Kearney.
Yeah. When you were playing, did you like a little bit of competition? Because you were nailed on starter for the vast majority of your career. Once you got in the team, you kept your position. Did you like the notion that somebody was nipping at your heels, or did you like to be kind of safe and secure and confident?
No. I think that the best teams, you look at the Dublin Gaelic football team, they have such strength and depth, players always chipping at each other's ankles for the starting spot. I think for every player, particularly going into a World Cup, it is so important that you have somebody who who has their eyes set on trying to take your position, and you have to try and keep it away from them. Going into the 2015 World Cup, Dave Carney was ahead of me, and I set my sights and have to try and get my position back off him. And I think that having that hunger is very important.
You obviously were living in Wales, playing rugby in the build-up to the 2011 Rugby World Cup, where that Welsh team kind of came from nowhere. There was a bunch of players who we'd never heard of who were suddenly absolutely sensational. You think of Tuatha in particular. It seemed like a newly constituted team in the last 6 weeks before the World Cup with a bunch of bolters, and yet that Welsh team always had the confidence that, well, of course, we're Wales, we're going to do really well here. Can we learn anything from that? Because it seems at the moment that the mood music around this team is as depressed as any Irish international team has had for, I don't know, since Trapattoni.
Yeah. I don't think the Six Nations did not go according to plan. But, in November, we beat the All Blacks. In Australia in the summer, we won 2 of the 3 tests. This is a top quality side. I think during the Six Nations, I think Joe maybe was trying something out. I think that he was trying not to show his hand. He was maybe pushing the team a little bit harder. The likes of someone like James Ryan had never lost international rugby, or had maybe lost 1 game. These guys have to get used to how you react to when something doesn't go right. And I think that it was almost potentially a bit of a plan for Joe to try and upset things. He spoke before the Six Nations how he hoped that they would finish 2nd or 3rd. They did that. I listened to a podcast with Eddie Jones a few weeks ago where he spoke about the Six Nations, 2 Six Nations ago, where they had just won 2 Grand Slams in a row, but he felt that team wasn't good enough to go and win a World Cup. He pushed them so hard the following Six Nations that they actually broke, and everybody was questioning them again. And now they've rebuilt again and are as strong as ever. So, as a head coach, they have to think long term. This plan must have been in place for a long time for Joe. I'm putting my trust in him. I know that everybody is very down about the whole thing. I was chatting to Gordon Darcy yesterday, and he is not feeling too optimistic at the minute. But I think that we have to have our trust in the players. You have the likes of Johnny Sexton. A lot of these guys, they got to the European Cup final last year. They won the Pro 14. We're not a bad team. We just need to maybe get a little bit of confidence and get the country behind us again.
I like the theory. We're rope-a-doping the entire rugby world. we're letting George Foreman hit us again and again and again. We're just going to counter.
Exactly. Joe is the new Muhammad Ali.
Who is the favourite in your view right now for the World Cup?
For me, I actually think England look really strong. I think potentially South Africa have the beating of New Zealand. I believe that South Africa will probably beat New Zealand in the group stages. It's just my fear is that Ireland potentially could have New Zealand then. So listen, who knows? I think it is really opened up the way the Rugby Championship has gone. The form that France showed at the weekend against Scotland was really incredible. So I think a lot of teams are putting their hand up, but I think given the fact that Eddie Jones has been a part of 2 teams that have won a World Cup, he's lived and he knows Japan inside out. If they can keep the Vunipolas, Itoje, Farrells injury free, I think they're going to be very dangerous.
Tommy, Ger might want to get one more question in. I've got one last question for you. It's not a rugby question, but your Air video with Tommy Walsh, Kilkenny, Tommy Walsh Kerry is doing the rounds again after his performance in the All-Ireland semi-final.
Yeah,
from being down there, from speaking with him, does he look like a fella who's about to make a difference in stopping the 5 in a row?
I believe that they need to try and do something different, and somebody like Tommy up the front will definitely cause trouble for Dublin. It was really interesting to speak to him. He's gone through a pretty incredible journey to have a dad who's won 8 All-Irelands, to have won 2 All-Irelands himself, then to go to Australia, pick up a couple of nasty injuries. He's really trying to rediscover that form again, but he seems to be really enthused within the squad that he's in at the minute. And given the 5 in a row, Kerry, nobody has given them an opportunity, so they have to try something different. And when you have the likes of Clifford and these young, talented guys around them, hopefully they'll feed off them well.
My last question, how nervous is it building up to this World Cup when you're going to be fronting the entire coverage that the whole nation is going to be watching versus trying to get on the team?
Yeah, it's pretty nerve-wracking. I'm doing plenty of homework. But what an opportunity. I think it's going to be an exciting couple of months. I think, it's pretty much over 30 games live in studio we're going to be doing. It's going to be pretty crazy stuff. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, no bother to you. You'll be great at it. Tommy, we're looking forward to it as well.
Cheers,
Thanks
guys.
a million.
All the best, thanks.
Tommy Bowe giving us his depth chart there. Some interesting stuff. Stockdale as a fullback. We all feel like we need something. So one of the main reasons that Leinster were so disappointed when Joey Carbery left was because they didn't feel like they needed a Sexton replacement. It was like he was the long-term replacement.
No worries, cheers, thank you.
At fullback.
See you later, bye.
At fullback. That's Tommy still saying goodbye there in the background. That he was the long-term replacement of fullback for Kearney. So you would have had Sexton and Carbery in the team at the same time because he's actually a fullback as opposed to our natural successor 10.
Yeah,
so Connor Blaindahl is actually Munster's future 10 and he's going to end up fullback playing for Munster.
Yeah, you would love to see Stockdale at 15, obviously, but it's what you lose on the wing then. It's just he is, as we saw there, he is our best winger. He's first choice in that position. His best position, on evidence, is still out wide. It doesn't matter. He says that he wants to play 15. Maybe he'll get to that level after. What?
Give him a game. Let's see him at fullback.
Let's see him at fullback a little bit more. I think you're right in terms of the body of evidence we have just isn't enough for anybody to be confident in a massive risk, say a new number 10, for example. But
yeah, we've got to
Stockdale isn't that much of a risk.
We've got to make some money and take some ads. Phil Egan's going to be with us next.
OTB AM on OTB Sports Radio, Ireland's first and only sports radio station.
Join Bruce Betting now for a risk-free first bet up to €100. That's right. New Irish accounts can enjoy a risk-free first bet up to €100. So if your first bet loses, we'll refund your stake with a free bet. Now that's giving you more. Bruce Betting. In store, online, and now on your phone. T's and C's apply. Please gamble responsibly. See dunlewy.net.
OTB AM.
Yeah, you're very welcome back to OTB AM. 20 minutes past 9 this morning. You're either watching us on youtube.com/offtheball. Offtheball.com is probably the best place to get us every morning. We stream live there, and you can also get us on the Go Loud app, which is the best place to listen to OTB Sports Radio and indeed to all of our podcasts. This September, the Off the Ball Roadshow in association with Cadbury are bringing Premier League legends Roy Keane and Gary Neville to the Bord Gáis Energy Theatre. The former Man United players will join us for a special off-air event on the 4th of September. Tickets went on sale last Friday, but they sold out in just a couple of hours. All the proceeds from the night are going to Aware, providing support and information for people who experience depression. We will be running exclusive competitions across Off the Ball in the next couple of weeks. I see Cadbury's on their Twitter account are also running some at the minute, so stay tuned to OTBM for more details on that, and you can follow us and you can follow Cadbury's as well to get details of it. One quick thing I want to read out here, Phil, before we get to you. Phil Egan is here. Emmett Keane on Twitter, maybe it's Kane, Emmett Kane, listening to @Eoin Sheahan on @OffTheBallAM complaining about the astronomical cost to Kerry fans of attending an All-Ireland is gas. They haven't left the kingdom for a match in September 2015. Whoa!
I'm obviously not complaining. I was literally just making a point that maybe that's something to look at because I haven't had to stump up those costs at any point in the last 5 or 6 years, so I'm not complaining because it's not first-hand information. I don't know if the attendance is in front of me. I'd love to see the attendance for this year's league final, for the 2017 league final, big games early in the year that Kerry fans have travelled in big numbers for. Didn't travel well for Tyrone, I'll accept that. Good crowd of them up for the Donegal game. It's a lot of games, it's expensive. That's all I'm saying. I'm not complaining.
But you were saying that the train is expensive.
The train is ridiculous. It is like a €90 return ticket as an adult.
You were complaining. That was it.
Well, it doesn't affect me, so I'm not complaining. I'd be complaining. It's that is the way it is. You pay
it's okay to complain. You're allowed.
Pay it if
it's
you
all
want.
right if you want. It's okay.
Pay it if you want. Don't pay it if you don't want. Does that satisfy you, or what am I supposed to say? You can't fly from Kerry. It's about the same cost.
Connor on Tenorgate, I know media outlets rely on sensationalising stories so they can gain a bit of traffic, but it's gone beyond a joke at this stage. Everything that's wrong with society. Is it okay, not okay to point out that £100 for a ticket for the All-Ireland final is a bit steep?
Well, yes, it is, but a lot of that is down to the fact that it initially cost £90. That is the main bulk behind this. I don't think the story's been sensationalised.
I believe you call that adding insult to injury.
Yeah, kind of. Well, the insult is paying for your own team's holiday, if you've been buying tickets all year, you probably want that team to succeed. And if you support them all the way to an All-Ireland final, then you probably want to see them go on a team holiday, and you'd be happy enough to stump up that 10 quid. I think, to be honest with you, it's like a situation where you get pulled out of the draw for an All-Ireland ticket, you're happy enough to pay the extra 10 quid, and you kind of know what you're getting into before that. And also, you don't have to pay it.
You do. We got in a bit of trouble yesterday from a lot of people because we'd written a piece earlier on in the summer about who'd win the game between Dublin North versus Dublin South. Eoin Hart wrote this piece and scribbled out the two teams, and I'm like, everybody's like, well, this isn't a topic, you're not allowed to talk about this in the build-up to the All-Ireland final. Dublin's one county, stop talking about it. But like, I was making the point yesterday on Twitter, if I'm Jim Gavin, I'm picking Dublin North versus Dublin South, and I'm letting them tear lumps off each other for my A versus B's. Not A versus B at all. It's just like, go on. Look at my kingdom. Look at what I can do here.
That'd be a really, really good psychological move, because that way people really just wouldn't know if they're in the A team or the B team. There is kind of a weird dynamic to that. And
Cubs versus Culchies was what Jack Charlton and then Mick McCarthy, and then I think all the other Irish managers ripped it off after that.
Yeah, sure.
I've always played for the Culchies.
We did it in Abbottstown, remember?
We did, yeah.
I wonder if that what happens in like Mayo training when they meet halfway between Dublin and Mayo.
Cubs versus Culchies.
Yeah, probably do. It's like the A versus B thing. Obviously, you get some legendary stories, especially from Brian Cody's brilliant Kilkenny team and Tommy Welsh and Jackie Tyrrell and all them talking about the glory of winning with the B team in 2014. But I think North versus South is the way to go.
Give us the news, Phil.
Yeah, we'll start with the Ireland rugby team, because they've been obviously training in Portugal for the last week after the win over Italy, but things are going to step up a level this weekend when they face England in the second of their Rugby World Cup warm-up games. Joe Schmidt is expected to bring back the big hitters such as Rory Best, Tyke Furlong, Devon Toner, Peter O'Mahony, Conor Murray and Keith Earls. We know Johnny Sexton won't be risked, so his Leinster teammate Ross Byrne is set to get the nod at out half on Saturday at Twickenham. Furlong says it's important for some players to get their first run out.
Second pre-season game, a few lads are going to have their first run out of the season, and I suppose you have to make that distinction that we're not here, as a hard training week, and we're going home at the weekend. We have a big game the weekend, and I think everyone's excited, and it's tough, the work we're doing, but hopefully there's an end result to it.
Yeah, that's Tyke Furlong there. Rory McIlroy, I know you guys were speaking about this earlier. He's in action later on day one of the Tour Championship in Atlanta. Won the FedEx Cup in 2016, but if he wants to repeat that, he's got a lot of work to do, because with the new format, he'll start from 5 under par, 5 shots behind Justin Thomas, who goes into the tournament at the top of the FedEx Cup standings. McIlroy says he's unsure about the new format.
If the FedEx Cup really wants to have this legacy in the game, like some of these other championships do, is people starting the tournament on different numbers the best way to do it. I get it from a fan experience point of view. I get it from, giving guys that have played better throughout the year an advantage. But come back to me on Monday and I'll tell you whether it's worked or not.
The fan experience is terrible. It's like, there's a guy already romping home. What? Like, no. What if the leader goes out and shoots the lights out in the first round? The whole thing, the weekend is over. Say he starts with a 62 and everybody else is 65.
Yeah, if you've got those weekend tickets, you're ripping them up.
Game, set and match, no thanks.
Or else you just stay in one of the hospitality tents.
I mean, obviously that is the fan experience, all right. But look, maybe it's going to be sensational. Is the whole point about the money list not that you're already ahead in the money? You've got the money. You've got the money. That's all that matters.
As Rory said, we'll talk about this on Monday. It could be sensational. But as I said, it could be over by this evening. Now, certainly one thing that's not over, Richie Hogan's red card. It's been reported in the Irish Independent this morning that the Kilkenny County Board will appeal Hogan's red card from Sunday's All-Ireland final defeat to Tipperary. As things stand, the former Hurler of the Year will miss Kilkenny's opening game of next season's Hurling Championship. And we heard when he talked to Joe on Off the Ball the other night that he said that there's no way he can go out like that, so we know he's going to be back next year. Celtic, Rangers, Linfield and Wolves are all in Europa League action tonight. They're in the playoff rounds, so just one round away from the group stages. Celtic have home advantage for the first leg of their tie with Swedish side AIK. That one gets underway at 7:45. Rangers are away to Legia Warsaw for the first leg. That one is at 7. Linfield, managed by David Healy, take on Carabag, who knocked out Dundalk in the Champions League qualifiers. That one is at Windsor Park at 7:45. Wolves have Torino in Italy for the first leg, and that is an 8 o'clock kickoff. Last night in the Championship, Leeds beat Brentford 1-0 to go back to the top of the table. On loan, Arsenal striker Eddie Nketiah scored for Leeds. Irish boxer Joe Ward is set to make his professional debut at Madison Square Garden on the 5th of October. The Irish Sun reporting that the light heavyweight will feature on the undercard of the Gennady Golovkin and Sergei Derevyanchenko world title bout, but Ward's opponent yet to be announced. Phil Healy was the top Irish performer at the Morton Games in Santry last night. She finished second in the 200 metres. Ciara McGean and Mark English finished fourth in their respective races. And England and Australia meet in the third Ashes test at Headingley this morning. Australia 1-up in the series, but they're without Steve Smith due to concussion.
Phil, good stuff. Thanks for that. Thanks to everybody involved in putting today's show together. That is our lot for this morning here on OTB AM. Podcast is on the way. You can get that on the Go Loud app, or indeed wherever you get your pods, on Spotify or Acast or whatever it is that you're using. You can watch the show back on YouTube. You should subscribe to our YouTube channel there. Anytime we go live, we'll ping you with a little message to make sure you're not missing any top quality sports content. And OTB Sports Radio is live all day. You can get that on our website, offtheball.com/radio, and of course the Go Loud app. We're live on air and online from 7 o'clock tonight on the Off the Ball show on News Talk. OTB AM is back at 7:30 AM tomorrow. Good luck.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
300 clubs getting vital cash funding. Over 450 schools.